Okay, we are live.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everybody, wherever you may be. This is the Friday, March 24th, 9 a.m. Town of Yarmouth meeting for the Open Space and Recreation Plan Ad Hoc Committee. Woo! All right. And I'm going to read some stuff into the record because that's what we do at the beginning. This is to formally advise that, as required by MGL Chapter 30A, squiggle, squiggle, 1825, and pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, and an act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations signed into law on July 16, 2022, the OSRP Ad Hoc Committee will hold a public meeting at the date and time noted on the notice of meeting. The public is welcome to attend either in person or via the alternative public access provided on the notice of meeting available on the Town of Yarmouth website. We're going to take roll call in just 1 second, but is some of this stuff going to change? What I just read, or did I read something different about?
I think
State
technically
acts
it's
of
only through
emergency
the
and
end
stuff.
of March, and they're looking at making it permanent.
Right, which basically means we can still do all this, but we may not have to read this stuff.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Well, there's a fun promo for the future. Okay, let's take some attendance, please. Steve Szanski.
Present.
Christine Marzigliano.
Here,
Ellie Lawrence. Did I miss anybody?
Ellie and Gail
Oh, right, Gail.
are not able
Not
to
here,
attend.
right,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, and if some other fine folks could identify themselves, we'll start with people around the table.
Brittany Durian, Conservation Administrator.
Thank you.
Anthony Bennett, acting recreation director.
Thank you.
Kathy Williams, town planner.
And hello, internet.
Cassie, Bethany, Weston, and Sampson.
Lauren Shunk, Weston and Sampson.
Okay, thank you.
And Nate Wetton, TPW.
Whoa, it says Nate, but it's Nate, your letters and background never look better.
Yeah,
Okay.
having computer troubles this morning.
Don't worry, we'll take what we can get. Thank you, Nate. All right, so we got a lot of people here, so let's rock and roll. You have a lot of cool materials, including this fine piece that was just handed out that I don't know if everybody, have you been able to send? Did I miss
I just
it?
got it this morning.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna wave it, and you can pretend like you know what it is.
Yeah, they sent it to me.
But
So there we
I was
go.
teasing. I don't know if Nate
But
saw
but
it.
Nate has not been. I'm hoping that
I'm
Kathy.
Okay.
I'm impressed, Kathy. I'm impressed that you were able to take it in and print it and get it out to everybody in such a
Well, I
short
did
time
send it
period.
electronically, and I'll have to do that
That's all good.
afterwards, so everyone has it, but I think you can bring it up maybe and kind of go over it. It's a nice little summary.
Should we do that now?
I think it helps to inform the goals and objectives, so I
Yeah.
think it might be good to do that first.
Yeah, because that's the bulk of what we're gonna do today is to talk about the draft goals, objectives, and action items. And so yeah,
Okay.
you,
I'm-
Cassie?
I'm taking that on. So there was one piece that we did not include on this, which is who the respondents were. And just helpful to hear who those are before I go through that chart. So there were kind of 6 main data points that we asked for. 74% of the respondents live in Yarmouth year-round. Half of the respondents work full-time. A third of them are retired. So that's a great deal of, work full-time and retired make up most of the respondents.
Sorry, what was
respondents-
the retired number again?
If they're
A
Thank you.
third. Respondents were equally split across Yarmouth. Only 5% of respondents do not live in town. 40% of the respondents have lived in Yarmouth for over 20 years. 44% of respondents live in 2-person households, and another almost 20%, 19% are in 4-person households. And then 36 of the respondents, so just over a third, are 65 plus age brackets. And then 21% were between 35 and 44. You had almost no respondents who were kids. Okay,
Are you
And,
gonna get that to us at some point in time in print?
We had that.
Yeah.
We-
I
Well, we
made
had
it, but I guess I just,
Okay.
you know,
Yes.
I can include it in the chart or not. I made it as a bubble for the chart. I just, you know, sometimes that can be sensitive, and so I just didn't include that in the chart at this moment. But if the committee feels that it's important to include, I'm happy to do that.
All the information's in the survey results that we looked at last time, so all that information is available in detail for you guys to look at. It's just a question of whether we want to be, you know, including it as publicized. It's up to you guys.
I was just looking to write it down, I just didn't know if I got everything.
Right, it's in the survey results from last
Okay.
packet.
So the purpose
fine.
is to publicize it and not just for our communities.
I'm not sure where we're going with it.
Sorry. Cassie.
Do you typically use these, Cassie, as pieces of the public outreach puzzle going forward?
The chart, you mean?
Yeah, this beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think people, it helps to visualize what the results really mean.
Sure.
So good tools for the next outreach that we do. And they can be folded into the body of the report as well.
Well,
So
I'd like to, sorry to interrupt, I'd like to make a suggestion based on what Steve said. And I'm not a graphic designer, but I think the stuff that you were describing could fit maybe at the bottom, along the bottom, with just a couple of slices, just basically what you were saying is where people are from, how old they are, how long they've lived here, and whether they're working or retired, I think is valuable information, and I don't believe it would detract from the, you know, these main points, but there are people who are gonna wanna be like, well, who are these 469 people?
Yeah,
Does that make sense? Is
absolutely.
that,
Yeah.
Sure.
everybody okay with that? All right, yes, we've only been meeting for 8 minutes and someone's already given you more work to do, sorry.
Well, I actually did it already and
Like I
pulled
said,
it off.
Like I
So
said,
I'll just
I
add
take
it in.
it back, okay.
I was feeling, you know, a similar way, but didn't, you know.
Cool, I'm
wanted
glad
to
you brought it
do
up, Steve,
it
thank you.
first.
I think
Okay,
it would be, again, this is from my experience working on the planning board, or sorry, volunteering on the planning board. I think that we have to assume that almost every time we interact with the public, that this is the very first time they're hearing about the thing that we're doing. And so that is, while we may feel that that's redundant, us gals here, that is not true from my experience. I can only say from the committee that I work on outside of here. That I think this will help in terms of people saying, well, you didn't tell me. So we just have to keep telling them every single time until hopefully they say that they knew or that they know. Anything else about this document? Because I'm glad we started here and thank you for doing this.
yeah, I'm happy to walk through the points.
Would be good.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's appropriate, okay.
Sure.
So we had 469 respondents to this online survey. There's a small typo that I will fix and resend this out, but the most frequented open space properties across the entire town are Smuggler's Beach, Bass River, Flax Pond Recreation Area, Seagull Beach, Grays Beach, and Peter Homer Park. And those are in order of ranking of highest to lowest.
And thank you for putting all of the names because that way more people will know what you're talking about.
Mhm. People, 50% of the people feel well served by their neighborhood parks, or that they have parks in their neighborhood. 45% of their park and open spaces, they visit their park and open spaces more than 3 times a week. So people are going often and they're going at all times of the day. 84% of people usually drive to parks, and we did see this in the open response comments that people would like more options for biking and walking, sidewalks, adding sidewalks and such. Generally, people like to hear about news about parks and open space through email. They feel that these issues are very important, extremely important. 70% of respondents said that they did. The most improvement, this is where it gets interesting. So people reported that the most improvement is needed on protecting their open spaces from development, programming.
Hold on one
Somebody-
second, please, Cassie. Nate, would you mind muting yourself, please? Because your office mates are having a party today, again.
No problem.
Thank you.
So first and foremost is protecting open space from development. Second is programming opportunities, concerts, education, etc., special events. Improvement on maintenance around grounds, buildings, trash. This was an actual, that was how the question was, the response was written. Restrooms, and I guess I'd be interested to hear in our next engagement what exactly about restrooms, more restrooms, better facilities, you know,
Hours,
Open up.
hours of restrooms,
that came up.
seasonality, all that. Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting
so
to hear.
kind of drilling into the details on that one would be helpful. And then multi-use outdoor court facilities, basketball, pickleball is the big one, of course. And we ran word clouds on a bunch of the open-ended response I sent Kathy, just the official open-ended response one. But pickleball is like
Has to be.
pickleball in all of them. So it's not just
Everything else are
those.
satellites in the word cloud. Okay.
Yeah. Most people enjoy walking, jogging, relaxing, and biking. Most people leave town. I think that one really feels indicative of the respondents, like demographic that we heard from. Most people leave town. I combined two questions. So they leave town or they want to see more added within town, more events, a community center, a swimming or an indoor aquatic center with a pool, pickleball courts, and particularly there was a lot of discussion around the conflict with summer camp at Flax Pond and just allowing for that use of the courts to be available.
I wouldn't say
Walking.
precludes
say
use. I would say you might say
Interferes.
impacts use or
Impact.
something, but it doesn't preclude it.
Reduces? It certainly reduces.
Reduces, yeah, maybe that.
What do you think?
Yeah, definitely
Okay.
reduce, because it's only
Yeah.
a certain time that they can.
Right.
Play that.
Also, precludes a fancy word, and I had to think about it.
Okay.
So, thank you, but I know we know what you meant.
Okay. More walking and jogging trails, more hiking trails, and more information about just what the inventory is and what the options are to go use. People were most in favor of protecting additional open space. 60% were in favor of that. And people were most opposed to preserving hunting opportunities. So that was interesting as well. That was 20%. So that concludes that goes through every question that we asked, the open space, open responses, and consolidates it for visual consumption.
So I have two quick thoughts, and then we'll go around the table. If anybody wants to add on. There's just a little typo under preserving in the bottom right-hand corner. The last thing you just said, there's an R missing in preserving. And my question has to do with whether you did this unintentionally or intentionally, when you decided to include the number of people that responded on the percent, so basically, on the bottom right-hand corner, there's 2 times you listed the number of people, and then in the middle, under the 70% you did, but under the 65 to 50 to 45 and 84, you didn't. And I'm only bringing that up because the inconsistency caught me. So I'm okay with whether you want to do it every single time or do it not at all, but I'd rather you do it one
Consistent.
extreme or the other.
Yeah.
And is there a standard on how you do this so that people can get a?
No, I think we should take it off because people skip some questions. And so if you were like trying
if
to
you're
tally
tracking.
it up, yeah, I guess that's why I started to include it in some places, because in most people, like all but maybe 7 people answered a question or something. So it just, if you were to calc out based on 469 respondents,
Sure.
50% of that, your number might not be exactly what the responses were.
Sure.
In the like when we produce the report, we'll have the survey results as an appendix in the back.
Right.
And so there might be a little bit of discrepancy between that. So I feel I'm a little bit unsure of the best route there. Maybe it's better just to put the number and be just ultra clear about what the number is.
I would just go with the percentage
Yeah. I would
personally.
get the
It's,
percent.
you don't need to get into the weeds. If somebody really wants to take a look at the survey results, they can go ahead and do that.
Percentage is a rough number
Yeah.
and let it go at that.
And we do have to trust that people can do rough math, because the first number you see when you look at this sheet is 469. And, you know, I'm not asking people to get out their abacuses or their calculators, but like, you would hope that people could roughly estimate, oh, around 230 or 40 or 50 people is
Figure it
half.
out,
Yeah.
So I would just say, please take out the individual and head counts. Those are the two things that I wanted to bring up. Anthony, anything?
No, not really.
Okay, got it. Brittany?
Yeah, I feel like the goals that we have, I know this is just a figure to kind of get our heads around the results of the survey, but it is 90% dominated with recreation. There's very little on this figure that has anything to do with conservation areas and open space. So maybe if we could, you know, put in some facts from the survey from those items too. I know hunting and protecting open space from development are, but the rest of it is development and recreation activities.
Although the most important improvement. The most improvement is needed on it. But you're saying it's just as a raw amount of stuff, how it's,
If people were
Pitched.
taking the survey and looked at this, my opinion, you know, I would think the survey was mostly about recreation.
I see.
I agree.
I agree.
So don't know how you can incorporate some of the other bits.
I'm just gonna go grab the survey.
Because it is what people focused on in the survey as well. People, all the write-ins were about recreation.
That's true. So we're trying to strike the balance of
Exactly.
representing a summary of the actual responses. With the fact that it wasn't just a parks and it wasn't just a recreational survey.
Yeah.
So the dance,
Yeah.
do you have any suggestions or there particular, oh, Kathy's going to get the survey. So maybe there's a question or two that we could highlight that emphasizes conservation.
Yeah, even just like under maintenance, trails. Could be on there. I think a lot of people mentioned maintenance of trails and trail markers.
You mean as number 3 on the most improvement?
Yeah, because those are all building related,
Mhm,
like facility related, which is also needed, but
mhm,
trail maintenance is also.
mhm.
Yeah, I think I just don't want to misrepresent what the question was too, because that was how the question was asked on that particular one.
Oh, that
But
was
if
the
there are ways to like include like the second or third most important thing in certain questions, then and those get to be more conservation and trails, perhaps that's how we go about striking the balance.
Maybe, well, Kathy's looking at the survey, maybe though, because Brittany does make a good point. We could pull a conservation/trails question. And at least give that some representation here. Is that what I'm hearing, Brittany? To the extent that there is one?
To the extent that there is one,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't remember.
I was gonna say, I don't-
exactly
I think
what was-
it's-
think what was in
Yeah.
there.
They're more caught, it's more about the answers as opposed to the questions. In other words, there weren't, I don't remember, but that's why Kathy's looking.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
There weren't specific questions about trails and conservation as opposed to trails and conservation were answers to more general questions.
Yes, so yeah.
Okay, but in general, then that would explain why.
The goals that we have are very specific. And I know we continued some of them from last year. Don't know how they were reflected in the survey. Because this is just survey results.
I mean. Yeah, I guess maybe more like, what was in question 18? How do you feel about the following statements? Obviously. Some of that had to do with protecting additional open space from development. That was like one of the second items,
So
highest
that's at the
items.
Bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah.
And then maintaining existing parks, facilities and conservation areas was the number one. I looked at both highly favor and in favor. I figured those are positive enough. So it does say concentrate on maintaining existing parks, facilities and conservation areas in question 18. So I think maybe you can modify that number 3 there to reference that.
You mean number 3 under the most improvements
Yeah,
needed
yes,
section?
yes. Because I think if you, question 18 seems to ask a lot of those particular questions. Because I think one of the things you definitely get a flavor from this, from all the comments, is that people really want to preserve our open space. They want to make sure it's
Yeah.
protected and that we continue to expand on it and keep it natural, keep it in its natural state.
Nice to see that support.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty clear in here on
I
that.
guess that's just more of a very short, very supportive sentence instead of all these different things about recreation. So that's
Yeah,
represented.
Yeah.
Correctly.
Perhaps it should have been split. Yeah.
so given that given that the survey is what it is. You think, Cassie, you could find some opportunities in here to represent the open space and conservation stuff? To the extent possible, while still accurately reflecting the actual survey results?
Yeah. So the question that Kathy was just talking about is represented in this box in the lower right corner, but I wonder if we could add
Okay.
like 2 or 3 bullets, like the
Mhm.
top 3 most in favor or highly favored, and then the least favored. So it's instead of
Yeah.
just picking out the one thing, we're adding 3 or 4 ideas in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think the planning ideas are very limited. I mean, I mean, it's the things that we're in favor of or opposed to were just very limited.
Yeah, and that's like the general, I mean, I'd like to see more of those, I think.
Yeah, me too.
well, it sounds like we have some thoughts and some direction, and we'll see,
Yep.
we'll see where we go with it. Is that
I
right?
understand it's really hard to take a survey that
Right,
was
that's-
100 pages
There
and make
you
it
go.
not a 1-pager, so maybe it's a 2-pager.
Maybe it's a double pager.
Yeah,
Yay.
understanding.
Now it's more work, Cassie. We've officially moved to more work.
But I do think number 3 on that most improvement needs, you can just say, maintenance of existing parks, facilities and
Right.
conservation areas and,
Yeah.
and leave it like
Yeah.
that. That one would be helpful.
So Brittany, thank you for bringing that up, and of course. I mean, you're doing it good. Thank you. I'm not sure about to say it.
I
It's just
salute
like
you.
literally, that is why you are, this is the beauty of this committee's representation. This is literally. Your government at work. Okay, and this is beautiful. All right, Steve, any other thoughts?
I don't have
Comments.
anything really, no.
Thank you so much, Christine.
Good.
Okay, Kathy.
I'm sorry, we just kind of looked at this. I knew you guys had put it together. But I guess what improvements on restrooms, I think you had made it a comment to me in the email that we need to clarify kind of what that really means. But what were some of the comments that you got out of the survey for restrooms, or that they needed ADA improvements, that they needed?
I thought it was hours and seasonality
See,
seem to be.
I'm wondering whether we want to,
Highlight that.
highlight that, not just restrooms, because that could be physical improvements in addition to
Right.
what we're talking about is maybe just additional times when it's accessible at nighttime for events on the beach, and then maybe extending the season.
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Because like Sandy Pond, like those bathrooms need to be
Redone.
redone. So
Right.
I think,
I just don't think, did
Time
that come out of
and-
the survey though?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question.
I think in the survey, there were some comments about updating the restroom facilities too.
Okay.
We had updating, add more, and care maintenance.
Okay, well, maybe we just clarify what that.
Yeah, just
what
adding a
we
little
need.
more,
Descriptor.
yeah, after the rest, yes, in the restroom section. Agreed. And Nate, it's nice to see you. All right, okay.
There he is.
Thanks. Sorry, I couldn't log in this morning.
It's okay, Nate. We're all good. we're gonna come to you in just 1 minute. We're
I would
still on Kathy.
Just the idea of more planning ideas. to just be a little bit clearer. So I think we're good. I'm good.
Okay, thanks. Nate, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I don't, not yet.
You didn't get.
Okay,
one,
I
so
know.
that's
You're just
great.
seeing it on the screen and I'm waving it like, Nate, why don't you have one? Sorry. But Kathy will kindly,
I'll
as you
forward
mentioned,
around
send it out to you so you can, and we'll take your written comments or however you'd like to provide them when there's time to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cassie, anything else you want to talk about, or Lauren, as it relates to this, and then as a transition into the draft goals and objectives? Or should we just
I'm all set.
move forward? Okay. So we will get to minutes and we will get to upcoming meetings and we will get to discuss the second public engagement plan, right? We'll get to all that.
Yep.
But I think we need to spend most of this
Yep.
meeting in this section, number 1A, if you're following at home or on the internet in the future, in our agenda, which is the review of the draft goals, objectives, and action items. And I will turn it over to the appropriate person.
I think what we tried to do at our last meeting was when we were looking at the different surveys and they these guys did a nice job of kind of indicating what the percentage was of people who were interested in the existing goals that we had, because we did ask how people felt about the existing goals, and the general existing goals seemed to be still valid in some minor tweaking format way. What we tried to do here was to kind of get everybody's ideas, to kind of just get them down on paper so that we have all the things that we're doing and all the great projects that we're working on get captured in here. After looking at this, I actually came up with some other ideas that we could probably add in for programming and that type of thing. But I think Lauren had mentioned this is something that needs to get approved by DCR, and that they have some formatting, some ideas, and some expertise that they've received from comments back from them, that maybe if they go over kind of those things first, it will give us a good idea of as we move forward with reviewing it.
Sure, yeah, I had mentioned to Kathy, there's a couple of comments that we've received that, like, as we go through it, we can keep in the back of our heads. So the prioritizing the objectives is one thing that's come up before. I think, something that we're already kind of doing, but again, just to like keep in the back of our heads
fading
as
in
we
and out.
start.
Yeah. Sorry, Lauren,
We
your
can't really-
microphone, your headphones are really cool, but your microphone is not.
We
Keeping
didn't
up.
hear all of that.
Okay,
Sorry.
can you hear me better now? We'll try to talk a little closer.
Maybe the
Okay,
shouting would be better.
okay, yeah, I'll start talking louder. I'm a little bit stuffy too, so
All right,
I
well,
apologize if I'm not.
we'll put our filters on.
It's
We'll be
doing
fine.
great. But yeah, so with the objectives, one thing that's come up is prioritizing those. So I think like things that we're already doing, but just to keep in the back of our heads, specific funding sourcing. Another thing that I think has already been, touched upon a bit and is in the tables that we've created to some extent. But that was a common comment that's come back. Another big one is that our goals and objectives, they would like those to be fully driven by this new planning process. So I think like anything that's related to previous planning processes or previous OSRP results, they don't want to see that information. And so, I mean, I think another thing we're already doing, but I think as we kind of formulate goals and objectives, just to think about how, this specific planning process is really feeding into those. And even is there an opportunity to consolidate? Potentially, I think we mentioned, and as we go through, we could look at goals 3 and 4, like maybe as we work through those, maybe there's a way we can consolidate or combine some of those potentially. But yeah, those are kind of some of the big things I think we can all kind of keep in mind as we work through it.
So before we start grinding here through these, like each of these in some detail, I guess I just want to stay a little big picture for just a second, which is to ask, is our 5 goals sort of typical? Like, I can't remember, is there a rule that says how many goals you're supposed to have in your plan? And if so, what is that rule? And if so, and if not, are we still on board with, again, despite what you just said about, they don't care about previous planning. Oh, okay. That's kind of,
They do
mean,
to some extent, but they want to see that you've taken the survey results that you've
Oh,
gotten
sure.
during this planning
Just
process,
get it.
regurgitating a
all
lot.
the
No, I-
outreach, and it's actually shown in the goals and objectives. That's
Got
the
it.
point. It's not just like, we liked those, so we're putting them back in.
all right, so then, thank you for clarifying. So, I mean, so then should I not be thinking about fives, or should I be,
Could be any number.
right, I just want to make sure that,
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure what everybody's mindset was, and that's why I wanted to start there,
Mhm.
because we also can't, we can't get lost too much in the details, we still need to make sure that, at 10,000 feet, we have X number of goals, and then we have to figure out how to get there. And so that's why I just wanted to start with, we've been using the previous one as a starting point, and an editing and a jumping off point, and that's all based on having 5 goals. So maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way, but that's what really struck me.
Okay.
And I just don't want to make more work for ourselves unless we have to, meaning if we're going to stick to 5 and use the existing ones, but then use the new lens that we've just been using for the last 4 months, I'm fine with that. So I guess what I'm sort of also asking is, are there people that are coming with brand new goals? Right? And again, maybe I'm starting at the wrong end, and you can say, Will, you're starting at the wrong end, be quiet, we'll start somewhere else.
What I'm kind of hearing is that maybe we might need to reword some of these, maybe combine them. I think the goals are still extremely valid.
I do too.
From the visioning plan that we just went through,
Yeah.
in addition to the open space and rec plan survey results.
Agreed.
So I think, if we want to tweak them and do things that we can do that. I think 4 or 5 goals is perfectly reasonable. We actually have a lot of objectives and action items underneath each
Right.
particular goal, which I don't know how many other communities necessarily have. And there also might be opportunities to move some of the action items around. Maybe they really apply as some, to another objective more appropriately than the one it's under, and that type of thing. In addition to also looking at, I made some guesses on timeframes and priorities and funding and responsible parties that all need to be vetted. There's also some stuff that's been left in here that we need to look at and say, do we want to get rid of those, or do we want to tweak those? Starting probably with the very first one of.
Right, so does it just make sense to start at number 1 and just go? Is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to take
Yeah.
5 minutes just to talk about it before we,
Yeah.
as opposed to just diving in and everybody saying, why are we doing it this way? Okay,
And one last note is that this planning process is cyclical. And so we might have a good sense of what we want now, and then we'll go into the next series of meetings, and then we'll reevaluate and add and edit. So it's not like we have to have the answer in this particular moment.
okay, good. I feel better now. That's good. I'm glad.
Well, it might be good to
Christine.
keep the goals on the same numbers, because somebody can look 7 years back and see, have we accomplished all of them or most of them, the goals or anything, and what's outstanding, what do we need to do? So by keeping the numbers the same, people can make comparisons.
Sure, yeah, and it does speak to what you had written earlier in your email, which I agree with, is, trying to figure out what's reasonable and what's possible, certainly as we look at the time frame sections of each of these
Right.
goals. Well, here we are, number 1.
Can you pull it up, guys?
Yeah, Lauren, do you want to do that or no?
Yeah, I can do that.
I think we need to get Lauren a new microphone.
Yeah, that was a rough
Yeah.
ride.
Christmas isn't for 9 more months,
Yeah.
so we gotta talk to the boss, W&S.
So I think maintenance obviously came up as a very important issue everywhere, all our facilities, all our recreation, and even in our open spaces. We had some goals before. The first one about maintaining a list of open space and what organization in town is responsible. I don't think that was ever done, to my knowledge. I know that when recreation used to be doing the parks, and now it's in the parks and the DPW. So this might be a case where Nate, I don't know whether you can follow up on your end with someone in Parks about, have we ever done this particular list? Because if we haven't, I think it's a good idea to have, because some of it might end up being, Division of Natural Resources. I don't think Concom does any maintenance whatsoever, but DNR and Parks and maybe DPW are really the prime ones. I don't think Rec does any maintenance anymore. Well, not supposed
Oh,
to.
we-
I'm not gonna argue with that.
Okay.
I'm happy to follow up on that, Kathy.
Thank you. And then, we're talking about long-term funding mechanisms, the second one there for open space maintenance. I think sometimes some of our problems aren't necessarily that we don't, I was talking to Brittany about it, that we don't have the money. We have funds available. We just can't hire enough people. We have the same problem hiring people that every business has.
Yeah.
Maybe it's related to money in the sense that we can't offer as much monetarily per se. But it's more of a finding people issue. And I don't know how you solve that problem in an open space and rec plan action item.
You mean finding people to do this kind of research?
No, not
Finding
no, no,
people
no.
to do
The
the
second item,
things.
to do the thing.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure because
Yeah.
the topic is explore funding mechanisms, it's not
Yes.
build stuff. That's
Exactly.
why I wanted to make sure I understood who we're trying to find
Yep.
people for.
So, yeah, it's for maintenance. So the second item is well, how do you find the funding for it? And sometimes we have the funding, or like the tourism revenue preservation funds would do that $20,000 for beautification team, and they would go around and do certain things that needed to be done. They haven't been able to do that in the last few years because they can't find people, not because they don't have the funds for it, because we give them the funds, they just can't find the people. So,
Well, just as the corner gardens throughout town, the landscapers
Yeah.
can have a sign and they take care of that little
Mhm.
triangle.
Mhm.
Perhaps we could do that in our parks. There's other ways,
Sure.
yeah. So maybe it's not necessarily maintenance, maybe explore, I guess the third one, explore use of civic organizations or associations or volunteers for specific maintenance projects within open space
Yeah,
areas,
this is what Christine.
which is kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, do we want to keep those three in? Nate's going to check on the list on the first one to see if we've done it already and we can check it off.
It's ongoing sometimes. I mean, we're thinking of ways of, with Yankee Village, of having park taken care of, whether through donations. Some people want a bench, but you can also have a donation for a garden and have your name on it or something. It's going to involve a sign.
Yes, yeah. Actually, that is something that the drive-in site utilization committee is kind of looking at a little bit with regard to the Riverwalk Park. We have a meeting on Monday kind of talking about that. And soliciting for that project, maybe soliciting larger donations for naming rights and that type of thing. Those are all options for providing additional funding.
But I think
For the town.
sometimes there needs to be a limit up at Gray's Beach.
Oh, God, there's
All
too many.
those benches. I mean,
Yeah.
there will be an opportunity for 5 benches, and there'll be opportunity for 5 pocket gardens or something like that.
Yeah.
Keep it reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the cost for like a bench is $3,200 installed now. So that no one's going to want to pay $3,200 or buy a $3,200 bench. So it gets a little difficult. That's installed and everything, but
Yeah.
everything's just much more expensive. So maybe it sounds like we still want to have these 3 in there and
I think
continue
it's-
working on it.
I feel good about 1 and 3.
Yeah, number-
It's gonna be looking for funding.
Yeah, I'm stuck
I don't
on
know if
number-
that Needs to be a goal.
Yeah, I'm stuck on 1A, number 2 there.
Okay.
I to me, that just seems like, well, that's what the job of to find folks that work for the town. Isn't that part of the job? I know it's.
Like one.
It's your job, Brittany.
No, I mean, like, is it enough, but it doesn't feel like it's enough that it has to be said on a
Yep.
plan with these kinds of, I don't know. It just,
But they're
Tell
not,
me.
they're only doing the minimum work sometimes. Sometimes things need a spring and a fall cleanup besides the regular maintenance.
right, but I'm stuck on this middle one because it talks about exploring funding mechanisms. That's literally what it is.
Mhm.
And I don't have to do that. That's not my job. So I don't know how the 3 of you feel about having it on there.
I'm okay with it not being a goal.
I am too.
I think it's
I mean,
inherent.
we have
It's
to,
inherent in the job.
we have to bring AmeriCorps in sometimes.
Right, I understand, but that's the
Work.
next one.
Yeah.
But that's the next one. I'm just talking about eliminating the middle goal. The middle, 1A,
Yeah.
the middle section. Does anybody vehemently
22,
opposed?
X.
Yeah,
I think that makes
Okay,
some sense.
there, squiggle.
And
Here
I
we go.
think
Let's
it's,
keep going.
yeah, I think it's,
Let's look at action 1B, develop an invasive species management plan to prevent, monitor, and remove invasive species, colon.
we have a serious invasive species problem, so I
Yeah.
think that would,
we have a-
addressing that is
no way
important.
To address it,
Yeah.
so I agree with most of these.
How about the timelines, Brittany, in terms of the time frame?
Oh,
5 to
Are we
7.
not doing that?
yeah, I just
Sorry, go ahead.
wanted to
My
make sure,
bad.
I just,
moved a
no,
little
no, no.
fast.
I just want to make sure that if there's a funding source that we attribute it to it. I think the first two ones are really just staff and doing things and getting volunteers, not necessarily any funding sources. But I know that
Yeah.
Lauren mentioned trying to be as specific on funding sources as
see.
possible.
Right.
And there's some in there from before. So just while we're going through that, think of not just the goal and the action item,
see.
but the timeframe, priority and funding and who's doing the responsible part of it. So maybe we should go through each one just to
Okay,
make
then
sure
let's
we're
do it.
talking
So
about
let's
that.
look at, maintain the list of all the,
No, we're good on those.
oh, we are good.
I would go to one.
literally put city, I would literally put town staff
Okay,
under funding source, just so that it's addressed.
yep, sounds great.
Okay.
So continue to preserve grant funding to remove identified invasive species in town on lands or water bodies. So I think that is ongoing. Or, yes,
I mean, it says continue. I would just have it say pursue. I mean, otherwise, it's just redundant to say
Yep.
ongoing and continue.
that sounds
So I
good.
would just have it start with pursue. Again, I don't know. I sort of get caught on these funding ones. It seems to me that that's an ongoing. I guess you have to say it. You have to, say
We
it.
want, I
We're-
get
It's
you,
a specific one though.
It
for
is.
invasive
Yes, that's
species.
true. And there is, that's true.
With properties above the water, you're always gonna have the invasive species there. And
Oh, yeah.
every X number of years, it's gonna have to be taken care of. And
Yes,
many times we go to the Conservation Commission or someplace else, to get the funding, to take care of it, The Phragmites just keep coming back,
So that line I think is good.
so the sources of funding, Brittany?
I don't know of any funding sources from Cape Cod.
Things that the extension, there's nothing there. I know that's been before. So where would you,
I don't know of the funding for there. CPA is the only funding we've used for that in the past.
okay,
I can look into it.
that would be good to know. If there's anything else.
bless you.
So it would be DNR, Conservation Commission and Conservation Administrator. Yeah, that's, I know. So the next one is, and I don't know whether this is done already, develop a public education program to raise awareness of invasive species problems and reduce the unintentional introduction of invasive species. Is that done?
No.
No, okay.
Unless DNR, I think, having signs at the conservation areas, stuff like that, you're talking about. Or an education program like pamphlets or an actual,
I think it's just like, it could be anything.
yeah, no, that hasn't been done.
Okay, and-
And that would just be staff,
okay,
And does 5 to 7
that seems out there.
yeah.
out
I
there
don't
good,
see that.
out there bad, out there realistic? I don't know.
Out
what you
there, I
mean.
don't see it happening in the next 5
Oh,
years,
okay,
but maybe
all right.
5 to 7.
Okay, well, that's why I just wanted to define, because I don't know. Okay,
And the other thing is, I mean, I always have a tendency to go when I think of invasive species, right to frag, but there's so many
Yeah,
others.
plenty of others.
what is that? I'm sorry.
Phragmites.
Phragmites
Those
is
little
the
reeds.
reed.
Oh, yeah. I just call them.
Yeah, common reed is the thing.
All right, thank you.
The third one, I don't know whether we want, whether this is really attainable and whether we want to
Yeah,
take it out or not. It's up to you.
I don't know if that is attainable. We
Right.
just need to do a quick, like, we need to monitor if we're gonna do Phragmites removal, we need to know where we're gonna send them. But other than
That's-
that, I don't know how we're gonna monitor an
Right.
invasive species.
I would be
I think the
inclined.
first sentence would stay and the second sentence might go out.
But see, the funny thing is, based on where we were in the conversation a few minutes ago, I mean, all of this is as staffing limits allow. I mean, there is nothing in this entire plan that is not limited by staff. So to me, I wouldn't emphasize as staff limits allow here, and I understand that I may be slightly
point.
nitpicking.
No.
I just think like,
Consistency.
we're
good.
just
Just
we
say-
get it.
Yeah.
That it's all of this is a staff limit.
Just
allow.
start with I, investigate.
I would just start with that.
And just leave the priority as low.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, and do you want, I think Christine's comment, do we
Yeah.
want to consider, you're not gonna have time to train citizens groups, are you?
Well, if we get an AmeriCorps person, I can teach them one species, invasive species, it's
Yeah.
monitoring week, so I think we should leave that.
Okay,
Okay.
Just monitoring, they're not doing
Can't
anything
teach
else
them all
except
the invasive species.
reporting back.
Yep.
What do you need for that, a semester? or- I don't know. Really? Okay,
That's a good
all
way to
right.
learn.
so we're
And the
saying,
timeframe, sorry, go ahead.
we're saying 1 to 3 years, is that
Would bump it up.
to 3 to
3 to
5?
5.
All right. And then town staff, and again, DNR.
And then really need AmeriCorps.
Oh. Well, can't say they're
Well, no,
responsible.
it's not.
No,
I wish it was.
staff / volunteer.
Sorry, Steve. I know, I got excited too. Let's go to action 1C, everybody.
I mean, you guys feel free to jump in at any time on,
Yeah.
on, online there. We're just kind of chatting away here.
Continue ongoing land management activities, colon.
This is what I think we need to ask Bill about. I mean, I know that, what they do is they basically do a prescribed, limited, controlled burn of a certain area in order to kind of change the habitat. Do you know anything?
When have they done those?
Oh, they did it during the last, open
Okay,
space.
I'll
and
just have
stuff.
to fill it out.
Yeah, okay. Because that's one I don't know whether if
I think
they're
it's
not,
very important to continue doing. I just
Yeah.
don't know what their timeline like.
exactly.
is for that.
Yeah, so that might impact, and yeah,
Okay.
and you might have some information on funding and that type of stuff. And I think it's DNR and the fire department are the
Okay.
ones that work on that. So 1D is continue to enforce appropriate and legal use of conservation areas for passive recreation to prevent degradation and abuse of open spaces. I'm not sure we definitely got that out of the survey, but I don't think we necessarily asked that specific type of
No, I
question.
don't think, does anybody remember that? I don't think so.
And same thing with the prescribed burn. I mean, we didn't really, because people don't know about it.
We,
I mean, what we got out of it is people don't know a lot of stuff. So I don't have a problem keeping these in if they're still seen as an issue. And I think I'd lean more towards Brittany on
Yeah, I
comments
mean,
on
all
these.
this trail signage, and discouraging those new trails are in there, and I think people did mention that, signage a lot.
Mhm.
in The live meeting,
Yeah,
and
it's in the
hunting
survey.
is in this category too.
On the first one, I'm thinking.
The investigate one?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure I'm following.
To address illegal dumping and abuse, maybe on conservation properties. I'm thinking of a cranberry bog grower that lets the
Encroachments.
water out too fast and it's created a ravine. So that would be abuse on
That's on town-owned cranberry bog land,
it's on town-owned
that's a
conservation
little bit-
land.
too specific to heaven.
The bog is adjacent to the town-owned conservation land, but when he lets the water out, it's created a ravine. So I would maybe say illegal dumping and abuse.
You say
Or-
encroachment, because they're kind of encroaching. We see a lot of that as
Yeah,
well,
we
where
see a lot of
people,
encroachment.
just like my property line's here and this is conservation. No one's looking, so all of a sudden, and then they dump all their stuff.
I just stopped a guy on Thatcher Shore Road and putting his leaves on town line.
I mean, I think encroachment is fine. Yes, Christine. Thank you. Anything else under 1D? Because this incorporates some of Bill's comments, right?
So it's town staff.
Sorry,
Oh, I'm going,
You're right.
go ahead.
but that's what all the red stuff is you incorporated the comments that came in via email.
I tried to incorporate everyone's
did.
comments and hopefully mine and and hopefully we covered everything. I did change the wording a little bit on the hunting one. I just wanted to get Bill's okay on. But the continue to install signage and provide notification of simultaneous activities of users at conservation areas with trail signage. I think that was really talking about notification of areas open for hunting and at what times of year. So we're doing that. We should continue to do that. And that's just town staff. I don't know whether it's really PR, that's parks. Is it parks?
Parks and Rec, I think it's.
Park, it's
Well,
parks.
It says
I think I
PR.
changed it to parks.
Yeah,
There is no PR. Oh, there it is.
It's Parks.
Parks Division.
Yeah, so that's
You
the,
crossed out the. end.
Oh,
yeah, and then you guys got to be REC for rec, because
Yes.
you guys are separate. Okay. All right. And then I just, for hunting, it was like evaluate town-owned lands currently open for hunting and assess whether any modifications need to be made, taking into consideration
Right.
changes in use such as, I mean, the last map was 2013. We now have a Cape Cod Rail Trail. We have the
That's a
treatment
good-
plant going on Buck Island Road that's now open for full hunting. So we may need to modify those
Yeah.
maps. I included in the packet for you guys, the hunting map that I got. I think this is the latest one. I got it from someone in town hall who hunts.
Cool.
But they went through a whole process. If you look there, they had a whole process that goes in, that went into that. They had community, like a group that looked into it. But I think if you're looking at this map and you're looking at, oh, those where hunting is allowed, there is a lot of overlap between recreational. I mean, you can hunt on the golf courses,
But only in.
winter time,
Certain
right?
times.
in different
Right.
months.
So, but it's, yeah, you gotta you see golfers out there all the time. But just, I think it's worthy of re-looking at. And I think that would probably be town staff doing that. I fully expect that to be contentious.
Yep.
That's why it says DNR. Maybe should we get rid of Concom? Should we just leave it as DNR?
Yeah.
All right. See, you're not here, Bill, so
There you go, Bill.
should be
You
all
don't get- You're not here,
DNR.
you get the work, you get the assignments. Anything else? Go ahead.
Encroachment issues on the next one. I didn't
Yes,
even
yes, I
notice
didn't
that.
realize that.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
Well,
Yes, it's there.
Yeah, maybe we
Combine them
combine
into
it
one. Yep.
Agreed.
Oh, I guess we have to add wetland resources.
Yeah.
On the top.
Yeah. One, two, and two. Okay.
Okay. We're getting.
Steve, we're going to goal 2.
No, we're not.
Dang
The-
it.
The last one.
All right.
I think this is the one that Brittany mentioned, but
Oh, okay.
it sounds like, I don't know whether you had coordinated with DNR on this or they were doing this for a different reason, but it's just making sure that people, when they're walking on a trail, they know where the trail is and they stay on the trail because they can see the
Yeah.
blazings. Is that what that's
And
about?
Victoria is done with that. They did the trail blazing. They're finished.
On all the trails?
The 6 conservation areas.
Oh, so do we need it in here or is it?
Well,
Well,
we have a big problem on the Dennis north side of Dennis Pond area. The new owner of the Dr. Tubbs property has closed it off. So it would be very helpful to have signs that when you walk the trails, you have to loop back. You can no longer go.
Yeah, I think that,
around. Signs would be very helpful, especially in that area.
I think signage is somewhere else. Yeah, this is just,
Trail blazing.
this is
trailblazing,
enforcing
basically
law
to
enforcement.
so that you're not
Right.
going off the trails and damaging
Right.
conservation areas and that type of thing.
I would leave it as ongoing, just because they have to keep an ongoing effort to build slash onto the closed trails, even though people will still keep using them, but they still have to keep
Okay, okay, excellent.
We're 20% done. All right, goal 2. Expand the amount of open space. Yes, Christine, do you want to talk about something before we start goal 2?
On to a.
All right, I'm just gonna quickly say, expand the amount of, just for the people at home on the internet. Expand the amount of open space and conservation land. Action 2A, identify and preserve land for natural resource protection, drinking water protection, passive recreation, quality of life, and aesthetics, : Yes, Christine.
What's not included in here is the open space participation in all of this. I think open space committee
Mm,
should be
Mhm.
part of it. What happens when a property is either comes from open space or comes from the town? Open space prepares the applications all the way up through the application process to I'm trying to think of the committee where we get the money from.
Yeah.
And we get CPA,
Mhm.
and we get the appraisals.
Mhm.
Once it goes into the formal basis, then the town committees, community development or whoever, takes over. And then if it becomes a priority, then it goes to town meeting or in the process. But open space is the step 1 and usually in all of this process.
So do you want us to just add OSC for the?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
oh,
first
is that-
column.
OSC should be on all four.
Okay.
Do you review the list of tax delinquent properties?
We'd like to get credit for it.
Wait, but do you actually
Right,
review,
for
do
it,
you
we're gonna
review
do
the
it.
annual list of tax delinquent properties?
I review them
I
in the
don't-
newspaper
Okay, well,
and I
So
look
that
at every
doesn't-
single.
that doesn't mean the committee does.
Well, I do it for
She's
the
the chair.
committee.
Oh, you are? Okay, well, I don't-
Yeah, sorry.
just asking.
Yeah.
I know that. I just meant,
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
all right.
So we can say town staff committee members and just maybe
The
that
open
can,
space, I mean, you're,
for funding for just developing the lists and stuff. But investigating opportunity. So I did add in, Brittany had a comment from, I forget who sent the letter into the Cape Cod Commission.
Yeah,
But with regard to, basically what they wanted to do was have more protections through the development of regional impact process on large open lands that were used for recreational purposes. It's all about the Twin Oaks Golf Course
Right.
over in Barnstable being
yeah.
developed. So I did add in a thing here about large tracts of private recreation or agricultural lands potentially subject to development. So that's why that got added in there. It's just, this Blue Rock Golf Course, maybe you want to keep an eye on that. And maybe if there's any interest in acquisition or some combination of housing and open space preservation might be something worth looking at. Investigate, I know that Christine had talked about the N-Star property off of White Rock Road. I didn't know if you wanted that to be a separate goal in here or whether it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, only been working on it for 14 years. I mean.
They bought, I didn't realize they had bought it in 2008. I thought it was more recent than that. But I have been making some inquiries to the water department and also the health department as to where could a substation be located. I'm always concerned about our zone 2 of our drinking
Of
water
course,
wells.
all of it
Um,
is in,
Most of it is this property, though, most of it is just out of the zone 2. So it's one of those, I don't know
Well,
if that's a sweet
but-
spot or not.
1,000 feet is arbitrary too.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you,
Yeah.
but technically,
I know, yeah.
that would be the case. So I did make some inquiries about that to see if there's any restrictions on that. And I had,
Well, I'm fully prepared to meet. I have all
Okay.
the maps and the charts.
Okay.
well, yes, I think that might be a good idea. And maybe I'm just thinking it, and so I put, the open space and rec plan has reignited this conversation. So I wanted to start
Yeah.
talking
I
about it again.
appreciate it, because we've been so good at putting conservation restrictions on our properties on the north side that it's a difficult find.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
So I know what the choices are.
Yeah. There's, I looked too. I didn't see it. Nothing popped out like that's the
Well, I
solution.
have,
You have a few thoughts, which we can
Yeah, we can pursue.
find another time.
So
to
we'll leave
discuss.
that in,
yeah.
Okay,
just like
how
that.
about the last one?
Um,
This is more about acquisition and
Yeah.
grant funding.
So CPA is a good one. There is the open space mitigation funds from the Cape Cod Commission, and there is that drinking water supply. Maybe we put that there in funding.
Again, this is something where open space, could
Yeah, no, you
I
bring all this.
talk to a property owner who doesn't have a buildable lot, instead of acquiring it, perhaps they can either donate it and then get the tax benefits and the conservation restrictions.
Right.
Okay, 40% done. Welcome to the one that's got the most colorful changes so far. That would be goal 3, protect and improve environmental resources, water quality and open space, Action 3A, promote stormwater management, recharge and flood control, best management practices, BMPs throughout the community,
This is maybe something Nate can comment on. I mean,
Please.
they do a lot of little stormwater treatment projects on town roads, kind of peppered throughout town. We're just talking about
Yes,
continuing to do that.
yes, and we do have some drainage money this year, yay, a little bit, not a ton, typically. So we're looking to install structures that basically, get rid of the total dissolved solids and nitrogen elimination where we can. Those are more expensive, and yeah, we're going to try to use our budget the best we can. We have 5 designs that have just come from a designer, and we're looking to install them in places where, with some of our partner firms, that the need is high.
So other than town budget, I know that there's been some grant funding that's been received in the past. Is that,
Yeah,
can you
that's
find
right.
out what some of those, or can you tell me what those are so we can add them to the funding?
You know what? I'm not really fluent in, but we're looking for funding through through coastal zone management.
Yeah.
There's a new application coming out through SWEG 23. I can't remember what that stands for.
Stormwater something.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
What is it?
We're being
What is
very
it?
helpful.
What are the initials?
Or
Storm-
Southwest, but I'm gonna go with stormwater.
Yeah, I'll pull my notes and I
It's
can
an
tell you exactly.
SWG,
That's what I thought,
and
swag.
then I lost them after that.
Yeah, there's.
If you can just
comes
send, you can just send that to me, Nate, if you have like a list of potential grant funding sources.
through- Sure.
We already adopted stormwater management regulations, so I eliminated that.
Yay,
Yay.
all right,
Some-
we should, gotta celebrate the wins,
So a
people,
lot
come
of-
on.
It is true. A lot of the
Yeah,
things that are
it
crossed out,
is.
we actually
Yes.
accomplished, so.
And
Oh,
guess what? The next people that read this plan aren't even gonna know that, right, Lauren?
So this was driving me crazy. Southeast New England Program Watershed Improvement Grants. Somehow they get SWIG 23 out of it.
Yeah, you're gonna have to send that to
Yeah,
me.
that's,
Yeah.
we need to go to the state commission on acronyms on that one. because that-
Yeah, that's right. That's
that is
a tough one.
travesty. That's a
So they
travesty.
put Southeast New England into the S.
Right,
That's
and then-
big.
Still a travesty, still a travesty, as far as I'm concerned. All right, so are we good on 3A?
Yeah, I am.
All right, let's go. 3B.
This is just, we obviously want to improve our water quality,
Yeah, we
reduce
do.
nitrogen, and I put in nutrient levels because we have that long pond study that's being done, and we're starting, actually even, maybe we could even put in there, I mean, we are working with, the Cape Cod Commission is working on a freshwater initiative. Maybe that's another goal that we could put in there, continue to work with them on that. Now that I'm thinking about
Why
it, does
not?
Yeah.
that make sense?
Any thoughts?
Commission, freshwater.
All right,
It's mostly identifying
right.
areas to put improvement in, but yeah.
I think they were gonna do some more monitoring, a lot more water quality monitoring in our freshwater ponds. So I can add that, but this is just really, I mean, let's take credit for what we're working on so
Right, which is phase
feverishly, which is phase 1 of the treatment of the
Mhm.
stormwater. Wastewater treatment
Yeah.
facility and phase 1. So I think that's high. The funding, I can list all the funding sources.
Have fun.
There's a lot there.
Yeah.
But I think Bill Scott's done a great job of summarizing all of those in all his
Mhm.
presentations, so I can get that list developed
Okay.
for that. The Long Pond study, I had money allocated at 2022 annual town meeting allocation. I put medium 1 to 3 years because it seems like Bill's working on it. He got some type of scope, I think, from Woods Hole or something, but he needs to do the procurement for that.
So does he need to stay listed under the responsible parties, Kathy?
DNR, yeah.
Oh, sorry, that bill. I thought you were talking about Bill Scott.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Too many bills, sorry.
Able district or
Um,
something.
And I did include a conduct a fertilizer education program focused on controlling the use of fertilizer projects, because that's actually part of our comprehensive wastewater management plan for wastewater. We have to do that, so we might as well get credit for it. So that's why I put DPW in there. I don't know whether the Conservation
fine.
Commission
That's
would
good.
have any.
Nate, you're nodding about
Yeah, we
that.
also are required to do that for the part of the MS4 grant.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
do like a little send out twice a year.
So should I say CC or CA?
Seems fine.
Okay, sounds good. And then I'll add something about the freshwater initiative, and that's all being funded through the Cape Cod Commission. And that's ongoing, so I guess it's high. Because they're working on it now, but stuff may come out of that may, they may be using in the future.
So
Three,
that's 3B. Sorry,
Yep.
now we're moving on. 3C.
3C,
So much progress.
2 things crossed out, whoop,
Yeah,
whoop,
they
Parker's
are.
River Tidal Restoration, which was the worst project ever. And then the Cape Cod Rail Trail expansion over Bass River. So done and done.
Yes, very cool.
I'm trying to, and maybe if other people have better wording on this, I'd be more than happy to get it, but working with the Friends of Bass River, they're doing their Upper Bass River Tidal Restoration Project. So just basically working with them to complete the permitting construction of the North Dennis Road Bridge and the Weir Road Culvert to restore tidal flow and improve water quality. I don't know whether I have all of the grants. I don't know if you know anything about that, Nate and Brittany.
I think that is it.
Okay.
You need to list Friends of Bass River in the objective and in the responsible parties.
They're doing all the permitting right now, so.
Yeah. I mean, if you just.
Oh, as opposed to just say complete the permitting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Friends of Bass
She was suggesting taking out the in conjunction with
Oh, and just have them on the right.
and just have it say
Oh.
complete the permitting.
Oh, I was just trying to give them
All
some
good.
credit.
All good.
River.
Yeah, I'm fine with leaving it.
Okay, great. We don't need brevity everywhere. Descriptions.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they did so much work
They
on
did.
that. They basically ran with it. And then the Run Pond Tidal Restoration Project, I think that actually has gotten a little bit more legs under it with the low-lying roads.
Yeah, I only know about the low-lying road portion of it. I don't know
Okay.
about the title restoration.
Yeah, I think it kind of brought up again the concept here. And I did look in the capital improvement plan. There's something on Run Pond way out, like
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 years. There's a giant culvert underneath the Smugglers Beach parking lot
Oh, okay.
that goes to it's right on the corner. Run Ponds, right
Where
on
the
the north
wetlands on
side.
the other
Yes,
side.
yes,
Okay.
and it's choking it off. So there would be like, I think increasing the size of that and then also having some type of tide gate on there. They've been looking at it for decades.
Fun.
But it seems like it might have a little bit more legs. So CPA capital, but I should talk to Bill about whether there's any other funding sources for that. Yeah, we'll be lucky to get through Run Pond, so I don't want to investigate any more
Okay.
time restorations.
All right, 3D, or are we still?
Well, I'm good.
Great. 3D. Yay, put on your glasses. Pursue wetland restoration projects. Okay,
Yes.
That's the West Yarmouth Parks project. There's a lot of invasive species there, and there needs to be some wetland restoration for the Phragmites and all of that. So I think that's a great project we're working on. Any other funding sources? I know that those are being done. I think those are right. Maybe I think Karen was there might be some conservation fund money requests, but I think you guys probably want to keep that
We
for,
have to vote on it.
yeah. So I just left that as community development and DPW. And then again, the next one is in conjunction. And again, I don't know if I have these all right, but in conjunction with the Friends of Bass River, complete the permitting and construction and construct the restoration of the retired cranberry bogs at the headwaters of the Bass River, which is Hamlin's Brook.
So they're like very retired.
Oh, yeah.
Bogs.
Okay, yeah, they still. kind of-
I just looked in
Looks
the-
like
How long do you have to be retired to be called not
I
retired?
don't know.
Because I think people who are retired would probably say that's a permanent one.
Yeah, no, that's.
That's a label until you come out of retirement.
I looked at the ENF application and that's the
It's
way they
just-
refer
yeah.
to them.
Yes.
The
And-
one that stays, the old developing lists.
Yeah, this is a question for you, Brittany, of whether you think that that's something that
The
needs
list of
to be,
Wetlands and need restoration.
that's a big, the list is one thing, but the seeking is
That would be like. Pursue future wetland restoration projects in areas of the highest need. Right? Because I'm not gonna keep a running list. I'm gonna pick
they keep
one with
changing
the
too.
highest need.
Right,
And pursue a
right.
restoration project.
Do you think that's something you're gonna really do in the next 7 years?
I don't know. That's a
Okay,
good question.
so how, does it sound like you want to maybe reword it?
I don't think we're ever gonna make a list.
Yes, that's
Right,
valid, because it's
that's-
ever changing anyway.
Right.
It'd probably be a list too. I guess that's not considered a list.
Well, then look, you just made the list. Check it off.
Do you want to just
Okay.
identify future wetland restoration projects
Yeah.
and, okay. Do you want to take out as staff? I mean, again, it's
Yeah,
that,
I would
Yeah,
take it out because
it's-
everything on here is as
Right.
staffing constraints allow.
so identify future wetland restoration projects and seek out grants and other funding sources.
Yeah, and then we can put it at 5.
Okay. And funding sources, we got to come up with something. Even if you don't use those, and there's other, obviously, as you get later down the line, different funding sources come into play.
Or we could put. I mean, there's so many options.
Is it NRCS,
DER,
DER? CPA, maybe if it's open,
just put all the
open
ones
space,
from one above.
and even SNAP, those
Yeah.
New England, okay,
So
okay. All right.
I don't see DER in here.
I need to have another list that says,
Oh.
those are just,
Oh, right, those are just
I need to
responsible
put
parties,
one for
not funding.
funding.
Oh, what
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, that would be
yeah,
helpful.
yeah.
And sweat.
Yes, it's when.
Yeah, Nate. I got Nate's attention, all right. Three, so that's 3D. All right, 3E, develop educational tools. Best management practices, :
This was Brittany's.
Yeah, I put that in there. We could just, I think we could erase the list. And just
Okay.
distribute the updated fact
It
sheets.
actually has the links in it. So if this was an online thing,
Yeah.
people could link to do
Oh.
it. That's why I left them in. I'd be happy to
Okay.
take, I also left it in the thing in case someone has a hard copy and they want to get to it. I can certainly do whatever. It was great information.
Yeah, I put the links in case anyone wanted. to-
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
copy and pasted
Had
that.
to read
'Cause
it.
yeah,
Beautiful, oh boy, casual, huh?
so funding is just distribute and publicize. This is just town staff.
Yeah.
Okay,
Posted on the thing.
okay.
Okay, 3F,
So I'm just gonna put
sorry,
DNR and you, because that's something you are you putting that on? Okay,
put that
so
on.
DPW be on
Sounds
there
like one of
too?
those old-
We like to put DPW on everything.
That sounds like one of those old movies, one of those.
Yeah, he's paying attention.
Educational videos from like the 70s, DNR and you.
I
It's like-
want to turn the page, people.
Yeah, we are, we're there, we're going.
Yeah, we haven't got
to.
to
We
recreation.
got you.
yet.
3F, continue coordination of GIS database with the online permitting system :
I don't think we need that. We're doing it. It's one of those things where we're doing it.
That's a
When
good
we were,
one.
this was a new and inventive.
Well, yeah,
thing
7 years
with-
ago.
with-
that
Right.
was a new
So
idea.
I mean, it's being part of Open Gov. I would just
Love
get
it.
rid of it.
Swipe it, we're done. So then the new 3F would be further protection of wetland resources through identification regulation : Now, isn't this similar to what we were talking about earlier or different?
Different. Increased jurisdiction.
Wetland restoration versus wetland resources, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
So you're doing this right now?
Yeah, it's next week.
Okay, so just quickly, you go out and have identified vernal pools, map them, and then you send them to the Natural
Yes.
Heritage? for
Vernal pool
certification?
certification has a data sheet that has to be filled out, and you need to provide sufficient evidence that is truly a vernal pool, and you send it to NHESP. They evaluate it within 40 days, and they update the GIS map online
Oh,
and put certified vernal pool, and then
Yay.
it gets
Oh.
additional protections with the Wetlands Protection Act.
and apparently now in the future with,
And in the future with the town bylaw.
Yeah. so they're also looking at the updating the wetland regulations in town.
Yep.
As identified here.
Well, this is gonna say will occur this spring, but this is a plan that's gonna last 7 years. So my,
There's like,
no, I'm just saying, I think for the
ongoing.
listing in here, I would just have it say will occur in spring of 2023,
each
right?
spring.
Because I'm just saying,
Oh.
or each spring,
for
even
each
better.
spring.
Even better,
Oh, you said it and it's been recorded, so, all right,
perfect.
You can see her.
okay, she just walked it back. Okay, it's all good. All
As
good.
you said, as staffing
I
allows.
staff allowed. Always, that's how it is.
Revisitation.
Yeah.
To get all the data.
Got
You
it.
need, like,
So it is an
5
annual confirmation.
Not for each pool, for each
Oh,
additional, like I
for the
could
new
could
one.
probably get 3 pools certified this year.
Ah, I see. So then you hit the
So
next
then we need
3 and.
more, yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Okay,
Okay, wetland bylaw, as we were talking about.
Yes.
Yep. Any thoughts there?
Changes on that?
Any thoughts? Okay, I'm not hearing any thoughts,
Yeah, okay.
Kathy.
yep, no,
So that will be, that's the new 3F, the new 3G.
Yep.
Is pursue dredging projects :
I have to talk to Bill about that.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we have, did we purchase a small dredging? Mr. Capital Budget?
Yes, it's such a big list.
I don't know whether it was something that was on the future or it was something. that
It's
we
on
had
there.
done.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I'll
Sorry.
look to Bill on how you get the funding. I know it's with the Barnstable dredge
I
and
think it was the county.
the county
Yeah.
dredge.
The old
Um,
county dredge.
but we have to pay for it. I mean, it's not free,
No.
so we pay for it how? So it could just be town budget,
Magic, it's money magic.
capital improvement money. No, it wouldn't be
Allegedly,
capital
no, it's, well, don't get me started on
Yeah.
capital improvements.
I'll find out. It's somewhere in the town budget.
Right. All right, so that'd be the new 3G, the new 3H. Is consider impacts of climate change and weather conditions. There should be a colon, everyone else gets one.
Yes.
Okay, and I keep saying it, so.
You're
So here we are, you're like, what's the colon? Well, here we are, that's why. All right, so 3, this is the new 3H, Kathy, please.
Yeah.
Let's consider the impacts of climate change. I mean, honestly, can we, I just need to say for the record, we're past considering the impacts. Sorry, it doesn't sound
Account for
strong
the
enough,
impacts.
like.
We are in an
What,
endangered area.
Account
word,
for.
account for, anybody got some other words to put on it as opposed to consider?
Address.
Comprehend, address,
And I think
understand,
just of-
deal with, address.
Address climate change.
Well,
do you-
reach out, just, tell people. I mean, we had
Well, yeah,
that meeting
that's-
years ago
I think account for.
about the
address.
impact of flooding and everything. I mean, right? I mean, that
Well,
was,
we had the whole, we have the hazard mitigation plan that we need to update. We have the MVP report that did a lot of this stuff, and we've been unable to get MVP grants for a lot of things, including an assessment, which is in here for our vulnerability assessment for our infrastructure. I just think we got to keep it this was something that I think that Weston and Sampson had identified last meeting as being something that was kind of somewhat of a new idea from the old open space and rec plan. And what I'd have here is just things that the town is actually actively working on that are related to climate change and weather conditions. I'm not sure some of the weather conditions that you're talking about on some of the fields, because I know that there were some issues on the fields, have anything to do with necessarily climate change. It just might be poor drainage on the field. So I was viewing this as being more climate change related versus direct impacts to recreation facilities. Because I don't think any of the recreation facilities like fields are being impacted by.
Yeah, I think I would eliminate weather conditions because climate change, it includes.
Yeah.
It's redundant.
Weather conditions, yeah,
So address the impacts of climate change.
yeah.
And I just want to say, because we're about 50% through these goals, right? Basically, that as it relates to the conversation we had earlier that Brittany brought up about how the survey results are more heavily about the parks and the rec. The goals and this plan
Open
are
space.
80%.
Oh, we'll get to you.
No, but I'm just saying, but literally 4 of the 5 goals have nothing, we haven't said the word park, I'm sorry, we haven't said recreation yet, basically. And so I just think it's important to kind of just sort of keep these things in mind as what we're saying to the public. And then what turns into the plan. I think it's possible, Brittany, call me crazy, that a lot of people are gonna go right to goal 5, right? Because that is the stuff that most people, not all, but most people tend to,
Yeah.
when they think of, oh, there's a new plan for the town. Well, where's all the stuff about giving me more pickleball?
But what do,
Where's all the stuff about
but what do
giving me?
most people enjoy? Walking,
No, I get it.
relaxing and biking.
I get it. I just,
And then
it's
maybe-
more of a commentary, and I'm sorry to get us off track.
maybe goal 4 and 5 should be 1 and 2, and the other should be, they should be renumbered.
I have no,
That's possible.
I will leave that to smarter people, Christine, but I appreciate the
Yeah.
suggestion. It's possible. But it is interesting that we've been
Just
talking
put
this
them in a
whole time and
different
we haven't talked about
Yeah.
pretty much anything you're up to. Right. That's not a judgment. Okay, all right. Anything else under 3, the new 3H?
Well, 3H is
Climate
just,
change and weather conditions.
just completing the low-lying roads project that
Yeah.
we're doing with the Cape
Yeah.
Cod Commission. And I believe it's the Run Pond Road. That's not necessarily the culvert that we were talking about. I think it's further up and Thatcher Shore Road. I don't know whether we want to say anything about working on implementing or just leave it at that. I don't know whether anything's going to come out of that study
Yeah, I don't know.
that will get actually implemented. I don't know if Nate knows anything more.
Nate, any thoughts?
Yeah.
No more Nate.
And then just, we do have that MVP grant
There he-
to complete the infrastructure vulnerability assessment for our infrastructure. And then kind of basically develop that highest priority of projects for future implementation. And then this was one that Brittany had put in, like when we're looking at future wetland bylaw change regulations use these particular types of maps to really take into consideration projections of sea level rise and that type of thing. So funding for that would just be town staff, I guess, because you're just would
I
take,
just- yeah.
okay. So anything else? Okay,
All right, we are on to
I'm sorry.
60%. 20, 40, 60, 80, 60. I don't know. Goal 4, preserve. Is that okay?
Yes. go ahead.
Preserve and protect open space and natural environments through land use management while balancing the need for economic development. All right.
Okay. I think this is the place where you guys were thinking that maybe this just becomes part of 3. Because it's really talking about protecting and improving environmental resources, water quality and open space. And I think a lot of these apply
Yeah.
as well. So maybe this ends up becoming the 3I.
Hmm.
Would that make sense from what you were saying about consolidating goals, guys? Yeah.
Okay, nod of the head. I guess that's all we need.
Yeah.
All right,
So action 4A would probably be 3I
right.
and okay.
It'll be the new 3I because we eliminated 3F. So don't be
See,
confused.
this is why I said we have a lot of objectives and
Yep.
action items. These 2 things in the front here are actually things that are also included in the housing production plan.
Yeah, they
So
are.
might as well. And we took the 40R thing out of the housing production plan, so I took it. I don't think we should be telling necessarily this level of zoning effort in a open space and rec plan personally, but we have that in a sense with the village center overlay district.
Hmm.
But I do think we need to look at our cluster subdivision and explore other ways like top of shop and that type of thing to provide different housing in already developed areas. And then this one we've had on there, consider amending the existing zoning bylaw related to land clearing and alteration of natural topography. I think what's been happening is people would go in, clear something, it would get overrun by invasive species when they had no project really coming along. So maybe taking a look at that. And all of this would be, town staff. Does that make sense?
It does to me,
All right.
including, that's everything, including the zoning bylaw amendments.
Yeah.
Action 4B. Okay.
Yes, yep. Actually, we could just put them all together.
I was gonna
Under
say,
3I.
maybe it makes sense
Yeah.
to have them all under.
I
3I.
agree.
Okay. All right, finally, Anthony gets to participate. All right, now we're in goal,
And Steve.
well, of course, goal 5. Steve was already at this page when we started this conversation. 4 minutes ago. All right, goal 5, provide year-round active recreational opportunities and increase public awareness and access to town-owned land and facilities, 5A. And this has been changed. Kathy, why don't you read that one out? 5A.
Oh, it was just to expand active recreational opportunities with an emphasis on completion of projects currently under development,
emailed.
which was a comment from Christine and a comment from most residents who
Yes.
speak with me. And I couldn't
Okay.
agree with you more
Yes.
as a town resident.
Oh, boy, we have some stuff to discuss. All
Yeah,
right.
there's a lot of great stuff in the works.
Sure is. And man, it's 3 pages. of it.
Yep. So completing phase 3 of the Cape Cod Rail Trail, which basically extends it through Yarmouth from Peter Homer Park to Barnstable, that's ongoing. I don't know if
But-
Nate knows any other funding sources for that. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll wait till Nate speaks. about the-
I don't know of other funding sources for that. I'm aware it's going on. We've seen, I think, 70% design drawings from VHB on that.
Yeah.
So it's ongoing because literally it's being done.
Designed.
Even though. So
Complete
that
design and
that's
construction?
Because it's happening. That's why,
Right.
okay, got it.
Yeah,
I got
it-
caught up in that. Well, it's not gonna be done for another couple of years, so I got
Yeah,
caught up in.
it's still in final design.
Right. I just meant, that's not why, that's why it doesn't say 1 to 3, because it's actually happening at
Yeah.
the time of this plan being created. I was thinking about outcomes,
And that's an
like,
interesting.
and that's why in my
comment.
head, I was like, well, shouldn't that be 1 to 3?
That's an interesting comment as to whether we want to, if something's ongoing, do we identify when we think it would be completed? I don't know. Cassie or Lauren, whether
Because-
that makes any sense or whether ongoing's fine.
Because ongoing is like, well, every year we're gonna look at 3 vernal pools. To
Agreed.
me, that's ongoing.
Right, yeah.
I think for the rail trail one, it should be, to me, in my head, I'm thinking about outcomes. And that's where I think, again, respectfully. I
Yeah.
would just say it should probably be 1 to 3. Because, or whatever you and.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree
okay.
with that approach From Will.
So things that are,
And maybe we can, not now, but we can take another
Cyclical
look at
items.
next draft.
Cyclical items are ongoing.
things that have an endpoint should be, have a year.
So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that's 1 to 3, right?
Yeah, do you have any idea when it's gonna
Okay.
go out to bid, Nate?
Right, 1 to 3.
I know you're 75% or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can find out.
Yeah,
Maybe something that we get updates on.
yeah,
I'll
okay.
find
Would
out.
you be comfortable with us putting it in the 1 to 3 until we decide differently?
Oh, I think so. I know it's a high priority. Yeah, let's leave it there and I'll find out,
Okay.
confirm it.
Sounds good.
Great. Nice to see things checked off the list, Kathy. The next 2. Oh, did you want to talk about this, the rail
Yeah,
trail?
Yankee Village is missing.
All right, well, we'll get to that. I promise.
Well,
Promise.
it's elsewhere.
We'll get to it.
But this is talking cumulative list.
Right, I'm just saying it was included under pursue wetland restoration projects. I mean, if we want to start moving some stuff around, that's fine too, but that's why it's there.
But it isn't just the wetlands, it's a park.
Well, then I think we need to pick a place we want to put it
Right.
and put it once.
Do
you wanna move it to 5A?
All of these other
Yep.
projects.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's move it there. While Kathy's jotting that down, whoever wants to pat themselves on the back for the sailing center, phase 2 improvements of Flax Pond, there you go, Anthony. And the dog park, you want that one?
No.
I
Okay,
think that's
sorry, I went.
Carl and DNR.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
they
but
did a great job.
there should be a moment to say, yay, those things got done. Okay, that moment is over. Let's keep going. Next, I mean, how do you want to approach this?
Yeah, no,
Kathy? Just
that's I
rolling?
think, yeah, completing the
All right.
second and third phases of this Higgins Curl shared use pathway, which is really gonna go from Buck Island all the way up to the Cape Cod Rail Trail. When do you think that will be done? I know you're in easement hell, but
Thank you for that. Yeah, let's see. So, by this time next year, we'll be in pretty good shape. I would think by the middle of next year, it ought to be 100% done.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Nate, go ahead. Say that one more time, please.
Okay, yeah, so you could put it in the,
One to,
well,
1 to
1
3?
year, basically.
okay, 1 to
Um,
3.
Higgins Cole Road.
So is that, I know you got a Mass Trails grant for that, and then are you
Yes.
also using town funds, any chapter 90 funds, or is that right?
For phase 3, we'll use chapter 90, but yes to the first 2.
Okay, so all 3, Mass Trails grant, town funds, and chapter 90?
Yep.
Okay,
That's right.
perfect. And just so that Brittany knows, we're gonna move the West Yarmouth Parks over to this area instead of under the so just all the projects stay together. And then complete the construction of the accessibility playground and splash pad at Sandy Pond. And I did incorporate improvements to the restroom facilities, because I know you're trying to do something there. So is that like 1 to 3 years out? I mean, the completion of everything, including the restroom facilities, or do we want to, you're really close to the recreation being done, correct? I saw some nice pictures.
Yeah.
Pirate ships in.
Yesterday,
Yes.
Facebook was on.
Yeah, I think probably Jim Saban probably did it. He went out. and
Yeah,
got a little-
there's a lot of, right, there's, they're hoping to open the splash pad, by summertime.
Yeah, I think they're ahead of schedule, so.
So do we want to keep that as ongoing, or should we move it to 1 to 3, or?
I would move anything that's not, I'm gonna check 3 vernal pools a year as a cyclical, sorry, I'm using it as an example. Anything that's cyclical, I think should be ongoing. Anything that has an endpoint should not be an ongoing.
Okay,
So the restrooms, I'm not sure.
That'd be 3 years.
I think that's probably in the 1 to 3.
that's
where-
the next category
Be
is
the
1 to
next
3,
phase,
so it'll be
yeah.
1 to 3 anyway.
Yeah,
Right.
so 1 to 3.
So that sounds good.
Okay,
Do you have any other funds? I think
Yeah,
there's CPA,
Sandy Pond.
but
I see.
any other funds? I think Amanda was looking for tourism, maybe some tourism revenue preservation funds for the bathroom, or,
Yeah,
yeah, does that sound right?
I mean,
I'll find out.
Thank you, Nate.
Complete the permitting and construction of the Riverwalk Park.
Again, I don't think should be ongoing.
It's 1 to 3. It's right
Okay.
there, and I've listed a bazillion
There's a
grants
lot of
and
money.
a bazillion
sources.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay,
Complete the building improvements for historic structures. I think this was from Christine about the Baxter Gristmill building, and then also the Taylor Bray Farm barn. I think the barn's a little ahead of the Baxter Gristmill, because that's actively looking for construction money for that, and I think it's in design or soon to be in design. I'm not sure. So I put 1 to 3 years, that you may find that the grist mill gets a little bit further out. I don't know whether, but I think the barn's gonna happen earlier. I don't wanna start separating.
Yeah. The
them
grist
just
mill's
because
been done in stages.
It looks great. Like I'd love to go by the grist mill. You can see
Yeah.
everything now and you can see the swamp.
It's-
The building's barely
But when
being
you're
held up
driving
yet.
by,
Okay, when you're not looking at the structural members.
I look
of
at the swamp, I look for the
building.
swamp every time I drive by. It's fine.
Okay, so that,
Hope we don't have winds over 75 miles an hour.
It never happens on the Cape. Okay. Top of the next page, incorporate stuff, road projects.
yeah, I think one of the main things that really came out, and it was in the visioning and very clear in the open space and rec plan survey, was that we need more ways of getting around without an automobile.
Yeah.
So I think the sidewalks were talked about a lot, especially people who are in a wheelchair, you can't
Yeah.
safely get anywhere. And even to these recreation areas, should you want to enjoy them. So we're adding that in there. And I just put an emphasis on including Mass DOT projects to provide more connectivity. Because there is a project from Parker's River to west to the Barnstable town line that may include a shared use pathway on the south side. So advocating for those types of things would be
There's-
good.
There's also apparently Route 6A as well, but
I don't think 6A is going to have a shared use pathway.
I know VHB is looking into it, but whether
Yeah,
they
VHB,
actually,
yeah, they're just looking into the village center that I think is like 300 feet of the
Okay.
village center, Nate. I don't think it's a full sidewalk project along 6A, although that's also something that gets talked about a lot. We did look at it earlier, but when you start looking at, that's a very narrow right of way. And when you start looking at making it meeting all of the compliance of you're eating into so many historic things. It was really, the public was not happy about it.
Even with the sidewalks that have been added in the last 15 years was a whole thing.
Just curbs, parking,
Yeah,
and sidewalks.
all of
In the village center.
Yeah, yeah,
it's-
but even just in general, the
Agreed.
6A sidewalk work has been
yeah,
adjourned.
it's a,
I mean,
it's
people
a
have
very
not
involved
drive
public,
through.
not in a good way.
So,
Uh-oh, Nate's coworkers are having their Friday party again.
Oh, no, here we go.
Okay. What is going on at DPW?
he's in an open area.
No, I get it. I just, but since we're always on a Friday with him and it's like, it's freewheeling Friday at the DPW. Okay.
Actually, I do want to have input from him on this next one, because one of the things that came out of one of the bicycle studies that we did, where we were looking about, could you connect from the Cape Cod Rail Trail at Bayberry through those existing trails to get basically down to West Yarmouth Road. One of the things that came out of that study was, evaluating whether we want to participate in the Complete Streets programs, which really it promotes sidewalks and incorporating all of that into roadway projects, but it also includes development of a prioritization list. And it also comes with different grant opportunities. And usually these types of things are run by some type of bicycle and pedestrian committee. I guess I'm looking for Nate's input on this one. I don't want to put something in here that's like not something that's going to really even be possible. I know you guys are swamped with wastewater. So that's a question of whether that's something that we feel we can even be doing. And I have a feeling the time frame would change at the very minimum.
I agree with the idea. Complete Streets is pretty awesome. Includes bicycle sidewalk. And it definitely brings up the whole community as far as value and appearance and everything else.
Right.
Let me just get with Amanda about that. It's a pretty big ask, but it's a great idea.
Well, maybe we put it in the 5 to 7 years and leave it as low priority. I think incorporating it into our road projects that we're working on, we can do that without being part of this program.
Mhm.
So the first goal is good. And maybe we'll just modify that second goal to timeline to 5 to 7 and leave it as low priority. Funding for that, I mean, sometimes I think, does the Cape Cod Commission help with those types of prioritization plans? I mean, there'd be a consultant of some sort. I don't know whether it'd be Cape Cod Commission doing it for us for free, or sometimes they do that.
It could be also Mass Trails.
Oh, that's a good one.
Would be interested in assisting with that, I would think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be, I think they would be a primary.
Okay. All right, sounds good. The next one is that complete the recreation capital assessment and improvement plan to identify the capital needs for parks, playgrounds and fields and develop a list of improvements to be implemented over time. I think this is where we're really going to get into more nitty gritty with regard to, do we have enough fields? What are the condition of our fields and what type of improvements do we need to have at our parks? I think most of this probably will be around parks and playgrounds and not recreation or conservation
That
areas.
should include assessing all the fields that just got added there for the school, right? Like all that stuff would be
I
included.
think it should be because it's added
Yeah,
as part of the
Because
fields
it's
for the
true,
town.
because there is a big give and
So the
take.
town's gonna be, as far as I know, taking over school and the fields.
Well, DY does.
Wait, sorry, you guys are saying things that sound vague and I'm not sure what they mean.
So are you talking about?
You say the town is going to, what does that mean?
So are you talking about the fields at Matikes?
No, we're talking about the
The
new.
new
We're
intermediate.
talking about the new intermediate. Just when you do this plan, you're gonna have to incorporate all the fields that got added and or subtracted with the new school.
But this is
construction.
interesting. In
The
the
Matic East is the
interim,
whole
what's
thing.
happening with the Matic
Matic East
Keys fields? In the interim, while they're doing the reuse study.
They're gonna mow the fields once a month. That's what they've agreed to do.
Okay.
Yeah, and until I believe the end of August, they are gonna be in charge of like scheduling them
Sorry, who's
and
that?
all that. The schools.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure because there's a lot of days out there
Yeah, so the school
Okay.
department is in charge of Matikes until
until.
Through the end of the
this school year.
end of the
or
summer.
year.
little after.
Sorry.
So I believe August 1st is the actual
Okay.
last day that the school will be in charge of the fields.
And then
And the actual school itself. Then it goes, from what I understand, it goes to the town. After that.
That makes
as a
sense.
town
Who's gonna do
and
that?
then which
schedule?
town,
We
which
don't know.
town department is that gonna live under?
Hopefully us, no. Well, we don't know.
Okay,
Yeah, so until they get.
could be parks, could be rec.
But who does all the fields now for like over at Simpkins and scheduling all of that?
So it's a combination of parks and rec,
Is
so
it?
we
Okay.
will, recreation schedules the fields. Parks maintains them. As well as like golf department kind of helps out as well.
So you schedule and they
So
make.
we do,
Why would the golf department have anything
That's
to
a
do with
deal,
those
it's a
fields?
deal they made.
it's a law, it's. been-
Bruh.
Convoluted.
All I have to say
They
is.
do a really good job, I will say that.
Okay, well, that's nice to hear,
Yeah.
but it sounds from the outside, well, I'll just call it bass backwards.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So we do the
Maintain.
scheduling, they do the maintain.
That makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah.
so maybe a similar kind of situation with.
I would assume, but then like that famous line that keeps coming up
Don't
here,
make the
permitting to
Yeah.
staff, you know, they're gonna be
Sure.
able to take on a whole nother. Set of fields, baseball field, football field, you know,
And how many positions are vacant? That gets into, you might have a position, but it's
Right.
vacant and you can't fill it, so.
exactly,
Yeah.
so I know they're short, you know, parks are short staffed too, I mean.
Do
So.
I have to bring my tractor?
Yes, please.
We really, well, the other big thing is we need this Matikes reuse committee to freaking
And
get off the ground and get
right,
started.
and that's
That's what
where,
we need.
that's the biggest question
In
now.
addition to.
Yeah, right, who's gonna be in charge of what? And that'll be
Sure.
hopefully,
Has there been an RFP for like the consultant on
I
that?
don't think so. In all fairness, I think
Just-
Bill Scott's been.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a few
and
things
he's
on
had
our
a
plate.
few, just a few
Just,
minor,
well,
teeny
maybe,
little projects. that
maybe
he's-
post town meeting, then
Yeah.
some of that
Yeah.
clears up for him.
Yeah, I think that is the
Yeah.
expectation. Yeah, I think
Okey doke.
he's done so much work.
Well,
He
hopefully
really
in the
will.
fall,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
group will start to meet.
Yep.
But yeah, in the meantime,
yeah.
this recreational capital assessment improvement plan, you good with where it is and where it's listed?
We got it funded. It's gonna happen. Yeah.
Okay, and in the time frame and the priorities. Okay.
So it's rec, town administrator. Okay. This is a case where sometimes I wonder whether some of these goals might be better suited under, this are expand active recreational opportunities versus,
That feels like a And one.
is it expand or are we upgrading, maintaining and upgrading existing facilities? So is it 5A or is it 5C? Because, all I'm saying is the recreation, I'm just saying, on the next item is after completion of the recreation capital assessment improvement, update the Flax Pond and Sandy Pond and Peter Homer Park master plans to incorporate prioritize improvements, including ADA improvements. This is related to existing, maintain and upgrade
Facilities.
existing
Be under
facilities.
5B.
5C, I think. 5B is expand use of. This would be upgrade. So I think it should be a 5C
5C,
personally.
right.
Sure.
And then how are we gonna fund our master plan?
Awkward
That's a good
silence.
question.
How was it funded last time?
So each of them.
I think CPA funded it. No,
No, I thought there was.
no,
It's
did
under
CPA
the
fund?
one
No, no, she said
master
no.
plan with like
That I know of.
But it hasn't been, yeah. It's tough or fall. It's thoroughly as it should be.
Peter Homer has an oar.
Peter Homer.
Yeah, what are your thoughts? It
Oh.
just, it just says Peter Home. Any thoughts on funding sources? Anthony?
I'm not
Sorry,
sure
right here.
how it was.
Thank you. I'm like looking at the other one where it
All right,
says.
do we remember how it was funded in the
Previously?
past? I can't.
I thought it was CPA funds, but Christine doesn't think so. I'll check.
Yeah.
Okay,
Check
That
on,
would be the only,
you would know,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I would have asked,
yeah,
don't know.
maybe, you know, who might know is Jeff. He might
Yeah.
remember,
because I think it was done in 2017,
17,
was it?
yeah, that was the date on what you sent me. It was 2017. I know CDM did it, I just don't know how they got
Right.
paid. So the next one, based on the updated master plan, continue with phased improvements to the Flax Pond Recreation Area, Sandy Pond, blah, blah. I think that's an upgrade to an existing and again should go to 5C.
Okay,
And those are later because you need to do the recreation capital, you need to do the master plan, and then you should be implementing. Although I do, in the next one, I think maybe we need to see if we can't prioritize addition of pickleball courts at Sandy Pond, maybe even earlier. I don't know. I typically like to do things in process. But that's something we should talk about with timing. But some of the things that they were talking about was lights, fluorescent paint, windscreens, and shade structures.
Yeah.
And then I think the only thing we can really do at Flax Pond is evaluate extension of pickleball courts to year-round use.
just the wording there just tripped me up, but
Okay.
it's not, you didn't do anything wrong. It just. When you say extension of the courts, I thought you meant making them bigger or adding more
Oh.
courts. I think it's
Year-round
just,
use.
I think it's where extension of the use of the pickleball courts or extension of the pickleball court use.
So
Something, either way, but you get what I'm saying.
So the issue is extending it, I mean, and this is just from our experience, you can't have it open all year round, so I don't know if it's.
Why, yeah, that's what it was. It was all year round.
So basically how the courts are, where the people who, I forget who installed them, so there is like a pole, a hole in the ground for the posts to go into for the nets. During the winter, water gets in there and freezes, it can cause it to have some structural
Yep.
damaging to it. So over time, it can, if it's open all winter long, the posts are gonna become damaged and have to be replaced at some point. So this is the recommendation that the people who, I forget who, put the courts in and said, after the first freeze, you wanna take pickleball nets and cover them,
So we cover the whole.
cover the holes.
So it's because of the way the pickleball courts were built, because they're not all of them on the Cape are built that way. In fact, a lot of them are, there are some that aren't open year round, that don't have the sleeve. They're
Correct.
just in.
They just
That's
have the
it.
portable nets. These ones are,
Yeah.
when you put them in, they're stationary. So like the tennis courts, you see.
But if we kept the posts in the holes, the water would still get into the hole.
Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
not like a perfect seal. And then
Because it
you have,
wasn't designed.
and then if you have the portable nets, you're dragging them
Mhm.
across the surface,
Painted surface, I mean.
causing it, yes, causing it to, you have to be resurfaced a lot sooner, so.
Yeah, not an entirely well thought out pickleball system, although if we were gonna, if and when we do pickleball again at Sandy Pond,
do it
would you not agree that we would do it differently than the way it's done
They
at?
should have
at Flash?
stationary.
I mean,
The way it's installed?
How about drainage holes in the bottom of the hole?
I don't know other like systems
So
other
the
than
water runs
the portable nets to be.
Courts work.
Well,
We have them at camp and they're just there. We just take the nets
I
down.
believe those
The nets
are,
go away.
the posts are
Yeah,
cemented,
they're cemented.
so these ones are portable, so you can take them out.
Right.
We store them away in the shed.
why not put a hole in the bottom of the receptacle
I don't know.
so that the water can't gather and
Yeah.
flood down?
I mean, all those things are,
At least so many versions of it. But what are
Yeah.
the current hours? at
Mini
the-
dry wells.
Just fill them with concrete.
So at Flax, because of,
Or seasonality?
yeah,
Seems
so
like
where
it's-
it goes to So it starts pretty much the first warm day in April, right?
No.
So like April 1st technically
Okay,
is on paper the first day that we start with the pickleball. And that's from Monday through Saturday, and it's from 9 to 12. That's just for the organized play. So people who sign up for the membership,
Mhm.
they pay $25 or 35 if they're a non-resident,
Mhm.
and they can play between 9 AM for organized play to 12 o'clock. After that, they can play whenever they want.
so the courts are open for anybody after 12.
What happens on Sunday?
Yeah. Okay.
Just open play. People.
Oh, there's just no organized play. on
No,
Sunday.
so the pickleball, the only hours that we're talking about as far as organized is the 9 to 12. Monday through Saturday for the organized play,
Okay, then you can play until it gets dark,
pretty much.
until camp starts.
Yeah,
Then when
so
camp
when
starts,
camps,
things change.
yeah, when camps start, so the timing for the pickleball membership goes all the way till like November or the first freeze.
Okay.
During the camp. We limit it to 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Because there's a lot of things going on during camp, and that's a bottleneck of traffic that all comes in. If the camp uses the courts as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they used to have someone come in and teach lessons, they do other stuff there, they have lunch. At
Yeah,
12,
space.
lunch service, so they need a space.
Yeah.
And to get all the pickleball people out before.
Right.
The line of all the parents, which starts,
Right.
early drop off, early
Sure.
release, stuff like that, so.
So what are the camp hours?
So the camp, I mean, it's typically drop off starts anywhere between 8 and 8:30. And goes all the way till 4:30-ish. So it's like pretty much, 8 hours, 9 hours of camp going on constantly.
So no pickleball from 12 to 5. That's what I heard in the surveys.
Yeah, the survey,
Pickleball for 9 to 12, yep, and then they can't play again until pretty much 5
5,
o'clock or so.
okay.
After that, they can play 5 to the lights,
To dark.
until the.
so they can play while camp is running, they just can't play after 12 PM and until
Yes.
5 PM, but then they can play again from 5 PM
Oh,
until dark.
Yeah, it's basically to
Yeah,
accommodate.
because they were saying they were just, they were not allowed to play at all, and that's not the case.
Is 9 to 12 organized play and you have to pay for that time?
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
that's the
So
thing.
that's the
So
other issue.
If you're not
is
part of the pay
you're
and
not part of
play.
it, then you're not getting pickleball at all until after 5,
Right.
So the other-
during the summer.
Right.
So the other component to it is we have a max of 450 members. We're almost at that now. During camp, we can't take 450 people. So we have a maximum of 80 people who can play at a time. So once it hits 80 people,
How do
No
you
one else can
legislate
come.
that? man?
the pickleball group.
Okay, cool, good
Yeah.
for them.
And once
Doing that.
it's hit 80. we
So
don't
when
accept
80,
anymore.
when the 81st person drives in at
Sorry,
8:59,
Yeah.
they're told,
And-
sorry, no pickleball for you.
there's no room to park. there,
No, well,
So that's.
But these numbers are telling us
The
a
demand.
lot of, yes,
Yeah,
telling us a
the
lot of
demand,
information.
which ties into this one here, which is Sandy Pond.
Yeah, I mean, the 450 members, obviously they don't play every single day, but there is like a huge, like. Just like every town is running into this issue of demand for pickleball courts. Everyone wants to play.
It was the wrong place to put pickle.
Oh, yeah.
Literally.
That's where I was going to.
I concur.
Yes, it's a bottleneck. You have one way in, one way out.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
layers of why,
Yeah.
there's layers to the poorness of the
okay.
decision. However,
Making
that's the
it work.
current situation, but as it relates to this, because it is 10:50 and we all do have to keep rolling here. Prioritize addition of pickleball courts at Sandy Pond.
Should we say anything about Flax Pond? Should we say?
Well, it says, are we evaluating the extension of pickleball courts to
Yeah.
year-round use? Doesn't sound like
No.
we just evaluated it. It doesn't sound like it can happen.
No, I
Well,
mean,
you'd need to make some physical improvements or modifications in order to make it happen.
Like,
Well, that's what I think. I mean,
yeah. I
you
mean,
could cement those holes. Couldn't you,
can't
could
fill
you
in the-
put the post in and fill it with cement and say?
I don't
"See ya."
know. I don't know what the manufacturer,
Right,
right, I
that's
mean,
all part of the evaluation.
right, so we
I
can
just feel like
evaluate.
so much went in, so many comments were about that. We have to
Right.
at least try to.
That's
address
fine.
it.
Okay.
I mean, I feel that tons of questions. Why can we only play till this time? Why can we only play?
Right, well,
That's the
never,
other question too,
yeah,
because of, across the pond.
So we are offering like an offset to this where they can't play at night or they can't play during certain times by offering it at Matthews during the day and at night. So we're kind of, maybe we
Okay.
can't offer it all winter long, but hey, come and play at Manatee's House all winter long
Indoors.
indoors. So we're
Yeah.
offering another, like a substitute for not being able to play outside in the freezing cold. Come on in and we'll play inside and we don't have to worry about changing anything or cementing poles in. I don't know
Yeah, yeah.
what all the specs are of all that stuff, so.
But if you have that, if there's that many members, I don't think it should be expanded, at Black Pond, it should be have new courts at Sandy. Point.
Correct. I
Sure.
agree.
All right,
Couldn't agree more.
we have
We're
done
good.
our
And there's
pickleball,
no,
we've done pickleball chat for this meeting because, but thank you for diving into that, everybody.
No, it was very informative.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll learn more as we continue.
Yep, as
Go ahead.
part, so the ones, as part of the former Matakees Middle School reuse analysis, consider recreational opportunities and programming, including retaining, expanding fields, courts, use of indoor gym and possible community center.
So was because the money was appropriated for the consultant at the right?
Yeah.
That's right.
I should
Okay.
put consultant.
Last fall,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
And then I don't know about this next one, whether it's still applicable. Or whether we want to look at a community center elsewhere, or because right now the one above it only talks about a community center at the Matakees Middle School, because that's something that's coming up in the near future.
it certainly is something that in the survey people had talked about.
Yeah, so do we want to leave that on there?
Sorry, which one?
We're
The
looking at
very last
investigate the
one.
need for,
Yeah,
which just about 5 feet,
it doesn't say where.
just about 5 feet.
doesn't say where
So it could
exactly.
be Manatees, it
Could be, yeah.
elsewhere.
So we'll just leave that like it is. That sounds good, Steve? Okay.
All right,
All right.
5B,
Ah,
expanding use, :
So some of these, I think we need to,
let's see if we can
yeah,
move more rapidly through these, not for no one's fault, just obviously if there's something important, let's call it out. Kathy, sorry, let's follow.
well, addressing the public, this was from before, and this is something where I think we need to finish our ADA transition plan and our site visit analysis to see what exactly this means. Are there specific restrooms? I do know, like, even like at Bass Hole, they were commenting about the bathroom there, even though it's fairly new, the heights aren't right of something, and there's just issues with different bathrooms. It might be, I'd like to get a clearer idea of what this particular item might mean, but it does sound as though some improvements at restrooms might be identified either in the previous accessibility analysis that was done in 2018, and then the upgraded ones that we're doing now. I'd leave it in for now, but I just think we need a little bit more detail and discussion on that one ultimately. And this is where I put in evaluate increasing hours of the restroom operation, and maybe we can even say in seasonality.
Yes, I would say both of those are issues that we heard loud and clear. Would everyone agree? Okay,
Okay.
yay, we can cross off drive-in site investigation. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the old inventory.
Yeah,
Maps.
This
Well,
was
Bill-
already-
Bill's been talking about
yeah,
this.
but this was already in here. I didn't
Yeah,
realize
Bill-
it.
Bill seems pretty.
Yeah.
On it.
So I think this is just completing that inventory.
Yeah.
And then conduct so there's one thing about where it is and make the map and get the public fully aware of it. And then there's the conduct the needs assessment of the various public ones, including, I added the fish piers in there, he had mentioned. And then implement over time. Keep getting back to funding. I'm just gonna make stuff up. I can look at some
okay.
different grants and put them as possibilities. But it's really just guesstimates for future work.
Yeah, I mean, should we just put grants? We don't know what grants.
I don't know. Should we be generic with grants, or should we try and be as specific as possible with grants, Kathy?
It's like a future.
What, I couldn't hear you. What was that?
Should we be, can we put as funding sources grants, or do we need to be specific as to the actual types of grants?
Oh, I would be more specific.
Okay,
And
all right.
we are well aware of lots of different grant options. So once you put your first pass, we'll go through as well
Okay.
and add
Awesome.
Cool.
the parts
Awesome.
correctly as we know.
Sounds perfect. Weston and Sampson.
Okay,
That
love
area.
it.
Improve communications, information, and mapping to the public to promote awareness of open space and conservation areas and recreational facilities and programs through a multimedia approach.
Multimedia, what is this, 1987? What does that even mean?
What do you?
No, I just
Different
say,
avenues.
I'm just being a little snarky, sorry. But it's like,
You're just saying we're
it's like
old.
there's this newfangled thing called the interwebs. And maybe we should promote ourselves through it. It's like, come on.
Well, we can just get rid of,
It's nobody's fault, Kathy. I'm just saying, it's just
we could
funny
just say through
how we
multiple,
use
for wide.
this term. It's just funny how terminology changes over time.
Does.
That's what I meant. Okay, 5C, maintain and upgrade, colon. Aren't we always pursuing use of tourism revenue funds?
I think we are. I almost think,
Does it
do we need to be in
on
here?
I don't know. Is anybody passionate about having this on here? Is there a political reason, Cassie or Lauren? Good, let's strike it.
I agree.
Less is more. Okay,
Um,
adopt a field.
I don't know the status
This
of any of
ties
that.
into what you were saying
Right.
earlier, Christine,
right.
about all kinds of possible.
Do any private organizations do any
As
opposed to adopt a corner.
No.
maintenance?
Adopt a park, adopt a corner, adopt a flower, adopt a
It's not
garden.
I mean, with the baseball field, I mean, certainly has lots of advertisers and they get money from that. I mean, you could have advertising along the soccer field,
In the new field.
Sign-
in the back.
in the fences, you know,
Yeah, well,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
right?
You need to change zoning to allow that one.
Oh, boy.
You can put your advertising sign up.
I think-
for-
I
I
think-
don't know what the revenue is.
If this
but
is, I mean, this is obviously,
It's a source.
you gotta tell me if it's,
It could
it
pay
feels
for
like.
the
it should
mowing
be-
of the field.
So, go bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
see
It should go bye-bye. All right, let's keep going. Improve signage to trails.
I think that's important.
Yeah, and that's what we heard
I got lost myself.
over and right.
I
And you
think-
know where you're going. And you know where you're going.
I know Mass Trails has a nice grant program for that.
All right.
And someone who was interested in historic and educational signage into
Yeah.
existing facilities. I think it's a good idea, but I
But
listed it as
below
somewhat
and
below,
long.
yeah.
Yes.
Couldn't we change that to 1 to 3 years instead of where it is?
Or it's a low priority, so. Try and prioritize more things that are high priority.
Again, funding,
Pursue funding.
yeah, I don't think we need this
think
one
should be
either.
struck.
Yeah, agree.
We talked about it earlier.
And remember, we're moving a bunch of them from five A to
Into
five
here,
C,
5C.
right?
Another one, pursue funding for improving ADA accessibility, review and improve ADA accessible parking.
Yeah. I think these ADA ones, we really need to wait until we
Yeah.
finalize the transition plan and see where the needs
Did we
are.
say that then, finalize the ADA transition plan and incorporate that.
No, it needs to be finalized as part of this
Part of
submittal
this.
of this plan.
Yeah.
So we need to do it.
I think this is more of a, this is just sort of a placeholder.
Yes,
Till we
exactly.
actually finish the ADA thing, and then we're gonna come back.
I
and
think so.
Take another shot at this.
Yep.
So delay.
Delay.
Well,
Representative delay.
it's gonna stay. We'll just gotta figure out what the right ADA. I mean, I do know that Moby mats were mentioned. I don't know what the status
Yeah,
of
the
those
beach.
are.
Yeah.
Anthony, do you know anything about, are the Moby mats?
So last time
There's Jack
you, there were, oh,
I'm sorry, it's Jack McCormick. I haven't
Oh.
seen him in a while.
So the Moby maps, last I knew were they parks, I believe, had funding. To purchase new Moby maps.
I thought I saw something. like
Yeah,
that.
and then I think they were trying to go through the CDBG, did I say that right? For funds?
Yes.
Community development.
Yeah,
So they're-
they
they were
were
looking-
CDBG funds.
Yeah, I
for
think people-
handicap accessibility.
Yeah, but I believe because they already had it in the budget,
Yeah.
they couldn't
Couldn't- okay.
swap over, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they're doing that already. So that,
As far as I know,
okay.
Yeah.
Who would know that for sure? Anyone in parks or
Kevin,
Kevin?
Kevin
Okay.
or, I mean, Roby.
Hey, Nate, is that another thing I can ask you to talk to your cohorts over there about? The status of the Moby mats? Purchasing and installing?
Thank you, Nate. Oh, boy. We're running out of time.
It's okay.
Well, I mean, it is okay, and yeah, we're not gonna stop. just
We're
want us to be
very,
aware
very
of the time.
close.
Yeah,
We're very, very close.
yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know, address deficiencies in hardscape courts and amenities. I don't know what those deficiencies are, and I really think that's gonna come out of that recreation assessment.
Capital, yeah.
So I
yeah,
almost feel like it shouldn't be
I'm okay with it
in here.
being struck. 5D, maintain and enhance Yarmouth's recreational shellfish resources, colon.
Yeah, we're probably gonna have to wait for Bill on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
okay, good. 5E, expand programs and activities for all ages, colon. Now, maybe some of these get moved around. Or some of the other ones come in here, or is that, you were talking about 5C?
I was talking about 5C.
Okay.
This one, I think what I might add in is obviously the special event space at the drive-in site for
Mhm.
events should be added in here because
Yeah.
that'll provide more programming and activities for everybody. But I did include, Anthony had given some
Yeah.
some information there
I
about,
mentioned the pickleball.
yeah, so addressing the multi-generational needs kind of, and this first one actually came out of visioning.
Yep.
And then coordinating with the schools, and came from Anthony about the adult and youth programs. They use the pickleball and the open gym basketball. And then just trying to expand recreational programming through the spring, summer, and winter, utilizing the schools and the playing fields. Is there anything else, Anthony, or anybody else?
No, Steve, I don't know.
You've been very quiet, Steve. Does that mean you're happy with the goals or?
Sitting here.
Oh, he didn't say anything, so I'm guessing that's his expression of happiness. That is.
I think one thing to ask in the next public meeting is what kind of programming. Programming is very general. It just, from our previous surveys and in our last meeting, we didn't hear. It's just people want more events. What does that mean?
So for, as far as recreational programming? Or just?
Yeah, I just drill down into, expand programs and activities for all ages. I think our objectives can be more specific about what those are. What are people yearning for? We know that they're leaving town for categories of things like indoor pool. So we could add that. But there could be other types of activities like more hiking groups or something like that. I don't know if it doesn't need to get ultra specific, but just have some categories of things.
Okay. I think I can be specific with regard to the types of events that might be happening at the Riverwalk Park based on what's happened in the past and what we envision happening in the future.
It's hard to be specific for programming because it can be kind of.
It can keep
It can
dynamic.
be anything.
Yeah.
And we do kind of.
But are they like, I guess the programming it's all about physical activity though, right?
We do like filmmaking, we do we have a ninja camp thing that's all hand-on stuff, so we try to do literally touch on all the different parts of recreation.
So I think it's important that in the actual body of the report that we're very clear on all of the programs that you currently do, and maybe if we can get a list of all of that we can get to Cassie and they can be sure to incorporate those in. Because
I think
sometimes yeah, because sometimes it's like if we have a ton we're doing already, there's only so many more we have the capacity to add into.
Right, and it changes too, like, oh, this program doesn't work now, or we're not getting people to sign up.
And the library's always doing stuff with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
senior center, and
Right.
they have the whole schools and the multi-generational
UN.
thank you. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm viewing this as expanding them. I just think we need to be careful when we're expanding something that we're not setting ourselves up to fail, that these are things that are attainable.
Yeah.
So that would be my only goal, but we can take a look maybe more in the survey and see if anything popped out, like we're really looking for this type of thing and see if there's anything we can do to be more specific.
Yeah, we can come up with a list of all this stuff.
Yeah, that would be great.
It'll be a long one.
I'd love to be honest with you, I would like to see it because I think our website is a
And
little,
I think it would be
hard
very
to see everything.
enlightening, for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
Okay, we have just gone through the draft number 2. Wow, how's everybody doing? Just nod if you can hear me. And you're okay. All right. We're okay too. Thank you.
That was
for
good
asking.
work.
Yeah, but this is what we needed to do. We needed to grind through this.
Yeah.
So minutes. We should do the minutes real fast, and then we got to quickly talk about April 7th. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know whether we can do it in any way
What
format
was
you want to do it.
Sorry.
I just don't know whether they had something to add with regard to the public engagement.
Oh, yeah, we should talk
and
about that for a
workshop.
second. Let's quickly talk about the second public engagement plan and where we go possibly on May 10th. And/or survey. Awkward segue.
No.
Yeah, I can jump in. For a next public engagement, we talked last meeting about doing some alternative that includes an online survey and trying to provide a forum for people to be able to take in all of these goals, I mean, and provide good feedback. So Lauren did a little test on what a survey could look like.
Thanks,
So
Lauren.
we already did do a goals question and validated that those
Right.
goals, you know, in the first survey. So we were thinking about, could an online survey then go through each goal and then have the objectives underneath in, you know, a chart that allows people to rank their priorities, and then gives an option at the bottom of that question to write in any, you know, if they oppose or if they want to wordsmith or add anything additional to those objectives. And then each objective has action items. So then the next question would then allow you to drill down into the next level of information. And so it would just be a series of these charts. Lauren, how many questions would it end up being then? It's basically just like number of objectives underneath each goal and then number of action items.
Yeah, so I think because we just would have 2 questions then per goal. So it would end up being a relatively short number of questions, 10 if we have the 5 goals.
So
Yeah, but then
How
each
does it-
objective has
Actually.
multiple action items. So you're talking, even though the number of questions might be low, it's gonna be a grind.
Should we just do?
Yes.
So then the question is, should we be focusing, well, Brittany, were you gonna say, should we not be going into action items?
Yeah, and just do this. like,
That's
the
my
first
concern. I don't know.
survey.
In other words, is that gonna affect the number of people who actually complete this thing if we have every single action item listed on this survey? I mean, am I not, is that where you were?
Just think people
Well-
don't know what a land management activity is. I
Okay,
mean, so continue ongoing land management activities.
Wait,
I'm just saying, if you're just giving there's the goal. And then the action, which I call the objective, and then the action item, which is this is what we're doing. So the goals, they've already kind of weighed in on,
Sure.
right, initially.
yeah.
And then now these are the objectives of the 1C, 1D. I think if you don't drill down at all beyond that,
It's a little too big.
it's a little too vague and people
Okay.
may not know what it means. Can we maybe make these? Summarize these in a shorter way, so it's not as long of verbiage, or
well, we
I think
were
there's just a lot of
we're-
reading.
Yeah,
people.
we were going to have our, you know, finalized updated draft as a link. So you could look at the draft goals, objective sheets that we've all just been looking at next to this. So, you know, we just don't want there to be, I don't know, it could be cumbersome to go back and forth between 2
I
different.
don't think people will.
all right, I hear that. I think maybe we won't know until we actually see the next version of the survey. After we, right?
Mhm.
Yes,
After we take another pass at this.
I think the idea of the survey and trying to vet the actual action items is unfortunately where we need to go, because that's the input we need from the public. Are these action items
Okay,
even things that you think we should be working on? What if they, they're not gonna know unless you actually ask
Sure.
them.
Okay.
But I do agree that maybe there's ways of shortening what the question is and getting to the gist of it without being so detailed in our point. I think we need to maybe be this detailed in the actual implementation plan, so we know
Yeah,
exactly
of
what we're
course.
doing.
that, I agree.
But maybe we can be a little bit vaguer in how we word these, or a little bit less wordy.
But thank you for getting this drafted and getting this started, because that is the next survey.
And the
And so,
distribution of that is what?
I would ask, Cassie, we had a question from Steve.
The same as before,
What's the planned distribution of this survey?
the same as before.
Just,
mhm, same as,
Same methods. Let me
Yeah,
guess,
now we
multimedia.
we have all of the
Killing me,
people
man.
who-
Sorry.
we have-
I just think it's funny.
we do also have contact information for all the people who filled out the survey previously, so that this can be sent out again
Yeah,
through those channels. And
I
You
have,
filled it out once, will you please help us
I
continue?
already have the list prepared.
Yay.
And,
Yeah.
and I think Rec did a great job getting, they have a bunch of,
The schools too.
of emails and the schools. I mean, if you look in the survey, a lot of people got it from the
School
reminder
blast.
from the schools.
Mhm.
So, Carol Woodbury's been very good about sending out just like a text to like 5,000 parents that just says, take the open space and rec plan, here's the link, and then there's the link and people can take it. So I was hoping that we would get more kids from
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
and especially
handful.
in all the things that you had done, to get it out to people who were involved in rec, but, we are, mostly retired, 1/3 retired, 1/3 second home and 1/3 workers.
Can I ask a survey taking question? There are gonna be people who are only gonna care about goal 5.
Yeah.
So are you gonna allow them to take the survey and just grind through all the cool, sexy parks and rec stuff and ignore the other stuff? Are you gonna make it required that they do everything? Just something to think about.
People do what they want. I think.
Well, no, I want to make sure we're not gatekeeping it to the point where we don't get as many surveys.
You had asked a good question
Oh, thank you.
of, should we reorder things?
Right, so maybe that goes, well,
I think the order should reflect the priority that people voted from the first survey.
But then are people gonna leave after they? The survey, is it, do you have to
Oh,
fill it
they
in?
do.
Are they gonna do the first one, like, all right, that's all I care about, I'm done, or do you have to complete the entire?
well, that's
Well, if
that's
that's
exactly
something
what we're
you
talking
care about and
about.
they're done, then that's information unto itself, which I don't think is
Yeah.
gonna happen. I think people are interested in all of this.
I think we're gonna find out. I don't know.
I just
don't know.
think that.
Yeah.
There's a lot, I mean, we did go through, the first 4 goals are basically, so we do want to, and then there's one goal really that gets into the nitty
The
gritty.
real specifics of like,
So
oh,
maybe move, and I know you're not gonna like this, but maybe moving that first and then having the other ones all together. I don't think people are not gonna fill out the whole thing. I don't, but we made, the reason I say that is we made a mistake in the visioning survey. Because we didn't make it clear to people that there was gonna be what the categories were gonna be. And maybe in the cover thing, we say, these are the
Maybe.
goals and these
There
are
you go.
all the things. So you're gonna go, boom, these are the goals.
what she said.
Because we said some things and people were like, age friendly or something, and they didn't know that later on we were gonna have something all on recreation for the younger kids. And because the age friendly was more like trying to be politically correct, saying senior services, which is what it really was. So I think listing what the goals are and that way you're gonna be answering questions on at the beginning will definitely help. But I don't think we should allow people to skip it. I think, I guess you can skip anything you want, but
We noticed that in the question where we broke out the different places for area that they were located in. And we started with like West Yarmouth and people were
Yes.
just writing in their place regardless.
every
And they're like,
place, yeah,
I didn't realize that Flax Pond was gonna be covered because Flax Pond was in all of the,
exactly.
I did see that. Yes.
Exactly, good point. So I think if we identify that these are the main goals that we're gonna be asking you a bunch of questions on all of these, people will get a quick overview of, oh, it includes recreation at the end, so I don't feel like, where are the recreation questions? They're there.
So in 2 weeks,
Oh.
then, if we see another crack at this, is that where we're headed?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess, so one thing for the group to consider is that I guess I'm just worried about only having an online survey as maybe folks feel that's okay. We have in the past done, and I was reminded of it because my town is doing an OSRP update as well.
Oh, boy.
That they're hosting just office hours, like I would suggest doing it at different times of day, but are there topics that we feel really passionate about? Maybe hot button and things like hunting or the pickleball courts. Yeah.
I'm
people
not
can
taking on
come
hunting.
Right. We'll let Bill do that one.
Yeah, I'm not taking on
No,
hunting.
but that's what you can do. So you're saying
We
you
can have like a Zoom call and people can just
Right.
come and air their comments, but it's more informal in that it's allowing us to get some more detail if we need to, and inform the goals and objectives.
Are you suggesting that each of our friendly department folks that are here just do a 30 or 45-minute Zoom availability about the open space and rec plan? Or should it be the same thing, but it's more specifically like, hey, pickleball time, who wants to talk about pickleball? Here's a 45 minutes to Zoom with Anthony.
It's not enough time.
Well, no, but I mean, that's what I'm asking, like.
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking
regardless
of like, what are the things that we heard
Let me
at the
know.
last
I already know
meeting?
where that.
Sorry,
And-
Cassie.
I was thinking, what are the things that we have been hearing through the survey and through the last input? You know, I sent Kathy a list of like 10 different topics that are high priority. And then maybe we have just a short 5-slide, like, this is where we're at in the process and this is what we heard. And now let's open the floor for your comments on this topic. And maybe we have like a map or something that helps people locate themselves. I don't know, but it could be very low lift on our part if there's Zoom meetings to support just open conversation around any of these potentially, controversial topics. Or maybe not controversial, but just topics that we need to get more detail on.
That's right. So
But
that
do-
is not having another 5:30 on a Wednesday when 5 people show up and there's 20 of us.
Yeah, that's really.
That I agree. We don't want to do it.
Maybe
I-
you want to have it at 7:30, maybe there's one at lunchtime, maybe there's one after work.
I was gonna say, I don't know if our friendly town staff are
Yeah.
gonna have, I'll use a fun term, bandwidth.
I'm gonna be honest,
I
I
just don't
think
know.
the reason we didn't get a lot of people at the first survey, at the first meeting was because people knew they could take the survey.
Yeah.
And we had the same exact thing in the visioning.
Yeah.
We had a ton of people, like 900 people or something, take the survey, and we had like maybe 75 people come to 3 separate workshops that we had because people were really interested. If we just do the survey, is that going to be acceptable to Melissa Cryan and the review people? Because we've only did 1 survey in our last one, and this would be 2 surveys.
That's double the
We should
surveys.
I think we should ask her because I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay.
I think she wants us to show that we've got it, that we have real-time feedback, and I don't know if that is, I don't know in what form she cares, or, if it's survey form or if it's in person speaking to each other. I don't know if that matters. So I think we'll just give.
I'm sorry, we're also gonna have meetings where we're gonna be presenting it to the Conservation Commission and to the
Planning
Planning Board. So
True.
there'll be another opportunity for people to offer their input at those meetings. I just, speaking of bandwidth, I just don't want to have to go and advertise all of these. And I can see people saying, oh, I want to do hiking and biking, and that's, at noon on Tuesday, but I'm also interested in parks and open space maintenance, and that's on Friday at 4. So are you expecting people to come to multiple of these office hours to talk? So although it's a great way of trying to get more one-on-one input from people. I guess just knowing where we all stand and the fact that we really want to have an draft in by June, because park grants are due by July 13th, I believe. I just don't think that we should do it.
Cassie, can you politely
Just ask.
get some favorable answers from the nice person? Thank you. I'm hoping.
Absolutely. And I think saying no
Melissa,
is
please.
an acceptable response. It's just, I don't want to not have the conversation around.
I understand. That makes sense.
I just feel like we've asked people, and this is, there's a little bit of an survey overload. We've been asking people about recreation through the visioning process. We've been asking people at the
Right.
initial, and now we're going to ask again, and then we want you to come to another meeting. So I think you just need to be cognizant of like kind of input overload from the public.
Could we utilize the town meeting?
You could advertise the survey at the town
Yes,
meeting, which is
right.
what I would really like to do, in addition to hopefully we'll have our meeting set up for the listening sessions. I want to advertise that as well. It's a
Yes.
great format. And those are people who are typically obviously very involved.
Yes.
In the community.
So yes.
Yeah, there's any number of websites on Facebook. There's a town of Yarmouth,
Mhm. Yeah, we do
website.
the web, we do the
There's
social media.
several Yarmouth
Hold on,
different,
Katie.
there's a chamber website. and things.
Yeah, we always send it to the Chamber of Commerce, and we have a whole publicity thing.
What about town organizations, like the Historical Society?
Bob Kelly gets it, trust me. We got it
He's not-
down,
He's not the president.
but he sends it out to the Historical Society.
Oh, he does?
He sends it to the constant contact list that he has. So we have a whole list of protocols that basically came out of the visioning process,
Yeah.
and a bunch of emails. I have an email list from the visioning workshop. I have the email
And
list from
also
everyone.
Internally, the town administrator's assistant usually blasts out a thing.
There's a news item thing
Heads.
that
Right.
and then we send it out to different committees and board members who then ask
Yeah.
them to distribute. So there's a a lot. And I think that contributed to getting the 469 responses.
And now we're gonna send it out directly to all of them again.
Yes.
So, okay. All right, I need to turn into a pumpkin here in a couple minutes, sorry. So I love all of you, but, and I'm sure you're like, yeah, we've been doing this for a while now. But Steve, I hear you. Hang on one second. I just want to talk about April 7th really quick. Because I personally have a conflict, not the end of the world. You probably heard enough of me anyway. So I just want to get a quick read as to if the rest of you guys can be here,
Yeah,
at least as we sit here now.
Yeah.
Okay.
it should be okay for me.
All right. There's a childcare task force meeting that I have been asked to attend on behalf of my new job at the Cape Cod.
Have to leave at 10:30 at that meeting. Just-
All right, well, hopefully somebody who says a lot less than me will run that meeting. There you go. Do we have a vice chair? Is it you, Steve? Christine? All right, well, Christine rules with an iron fist. You've been warned.
So can we just talk about what we're gonna?
Yeah, so what we're gonna talk, so step one was, are we gonna have enough people to have a meeting? It sounds like we will. Step two is, I believe we want to talk about the ADA transition plan. Is that right?
I just want to make sure that we've gone back and done all the work that kind of gets us to the goals in addition to,
Sure.
this whole analysis and assessment that kind of goes ahead of that. So that might be good to talk about. And then obviously the updated implementation plan.
And then it says here, site visit summaries.
Yeah.
Is that reasonable?
So we will have site visit summaries done for that meeting,
Right.
but we need to go back out and get inside the buildings. And I know Kathy, I need to coordinate that with you. I don't know if we'll be out at that point, but we'll we'll keep you posted on dates and such. For
There's
that.
probably things that you've already identified, and I'm sorry, Lauren, I haven't looked at that form that you sent of the for the site visit for the Baxter grist mill. I didn't have a chance to look at that. But I think there's probably some site things that you know about already that might be ADA things. So just kind of thinking about that. All right.
Okay, April 7th is the thing. Go ahead.
Ideally, we'd like to do like a similar visual analysis of the site evaluation forms to try to consolidate and extract what are the pertinent points coming out of those evaluations. So we'll try our best to have that ready for this.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, now, Steve, I would love a motion to approve on the minutes of March 10th.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the.
All right, fascinating. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Christine. Discussion not allowing. Vote, please. Steve Shazansky,
Yes.
Christine Marzigliano,
Aye.
Ellie Lawrence, Gail Charette, Will Rubenstein, aye. All right. We talked about the next meeting. I think that's everything.
Oh, no, there's multiple meetings.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. There are multiple meetings. The next couple of meetings.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had multiple meeting minutes.
I
Sorry.
don't want it more.
No, you're
Okay,
right.
good. I'm kidding.
Sorry.
You did such a good job that we only had one set of minutes.
It's for the next meeting
well,
on Monday. I have
You're
3
caught
sets.
up. Okay. Thank you, Lauren, Cassie, Nate.
Okay.
Brittany left at 11:17.
I'm gonna take off too. Thank you.
We're
We're
all done.
adjourned. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
Yes.
Steve seconded it. I
Aye.
thirded it. Steve,
I
Aye.
vote in favor, yeah.
yes. Christine.
Aye.
Will, aye. Sorry. And Gail and Ellie are.
I don't know when Ellie's coming back. She may not
I
be
don't-
back by then.
She'll be,
Is she gonna?
Maybe on Zoom,
Oh,
she can
I
join.
gotta.
she'll be.
Thank you, internet.